carry out these.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
And good morning. Yes, Ian Collins in for Jeremy Khan. It's a Thursday morning. The pre-summer vibe is still there. It's going to be hot yet again. What have we got this morning? Only 1 in 6 people will be in education, employment or training within 5 years unless urgent action is taken. This is the huge review that has happened from Alan Milburn, the former Minister. The education, health and welfare systems are no longer fit for purpose in preparing young people for adult life. This is not sustainable. Answers, please. 0344 499 1000. Elsewhere, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has hit back at Tony Blair, saying Blair doesn't know what's going on in modern working-class communities. In fairness to Mr Blair, he wasn't really writing about that. It was something far wider. Also this morning, birth rates are plummeting. Brits are not breeding like they used to, and the demographics are changing. Last year, 40% of births were to parents where one or both were foreign-born. In some areas, that figure rises to 84%. What do we make of that? And this, the local council who splashed out £2.4 million on what is being called Britain's first cycle road. Bikes and pedestrians have priority. Cars can just whistle and sit it out. This is madness. It's almost an illness. Taxpayers' money on essentially vanity projects. Tell me about the cycle lane madness, please, in your neck of the woods, because these things are all over the show. And the government has released a list on what they call essential food items. As you might expect, because it's the government, someone didn't get the memo on what working people stick in their shopping baskets. The list includes couscous, avocados, green tea, quinoa, and tropical... I can't read my own writing. And tropical fruit. Give me your essential item, please, for the dinner table. I'd like to know more. Everything you need to know. We'll bring you all the breaking news. There's always some, of course, in the morning. 0344 499 1000. You can drop us a voice note there as well. And, of course, message 872 222. We are delighted. Former top cop Peter Bleksley is in the studio. How are you, Peter?
Very well, thank you.
When will you stop being called a former top cop? When will you just be called Peter Bleksley, commentator, bon vivant, all-round good bloke?
I think that's a label I'm never going to shake off. I've been in the media now for getting on for 25 years.
So you've been in the media probably longer than you were in the police.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. But I'm still proud to have that title.
Yeah,
I'm proud that I was a Scotland Yard detective back in the day when Scotland Yard was a name and a reputation that opened doors for you and made law enforcement roll out the red carpet wheresoever in the world you went.
Yeah. Unbelievable, isn't it, how that kind of perception has changed?
Astonishing and heartbreaking for many detectives of my generation. Who contact me and read the headlines and shake their heads, and uniformed officers as well, many that I'm in contact with that served in yesteryear, when of course policing was not perfect, let me make that perfectly plain, but it served the public so much better than what they get today.
Indeed. And you could say things like, right, you're nicked.
You're nicked.
Yeah.
Get in the back of the van, mind your head.
That's right, yeah. So you're going in the back of the van. Mind your head. Listen, there's a lot to talk about here, Peter. I was slightly taken by this food list that the government have released. And you just know that when the government embark on something, because ordinary people don't work in the government or in the civil service or as special advisors, and they're all called Pandora and the like. You know that the list that's going to come back, there's somebody was charged, come up with a list of essentials that we can make them tariff friendly. And I mentioned quinoa and green tea and avocados. I don't think I saw an avocado till I was about 20. There was definitely, our house never had an avocado in it.
I've no idea what quinoa is. Could you explain it to me? What is it? Is it a fruit, a vegetable, or a...
How would you describe quinoa? Like, you know couscous?
Yes, I'm familiar with couscous.
I mean, even that is... John Bishop, the comedian, does a whole routine about how posh his own kids are.
Right.
Because obviously he's gone from a working-class Scouse kid to being a very rich, very successful comedian. He does a whole routine about, one of his kids dropping their lunchbox and saying, oh, Daddy, my couscous has fallen out. And he said, I suddenly realised that my kids are the kids I hated when I was a kid. And he got to that stage. So, couscous, avocados, green tea. Quinoa is in the couscous department. I know that much. Yeah.
Is it? Well, I'm utterly unfamiliar with it. But seeing as we're talking about couscous, if we must, it kind of it irritates me on the rare occasions that I find it on my plate, because you have to herd it, don't you?
It's a herding.
I like
product.
food that you can generally spear or scoop and then devour, as opposed to herding it. Couscous goes everywhere across the plate, and you have to kind of gather it all together.
You have to sort of be a shepherd of the plate.
And of course, if you've got a fork, you've got no chance, have you?
Oh, you're absolutely hiding to nothing, frankly. With a fork and couscous is it's only going to end one way, frankly.
Yeah.
That's mostly on your lap.
Down my front,
or the dinner table. It's an interesting list. I mean, they've got some of the obvious stuff on there, like baked beans and bread and stuff. They've got dried apricots and apple. I mean, most people don't buy this stuff.
Dried apricots. My wife tells me that dried fruit is sky high in sugar, apparently. Now, I don't know if it's right or not, but...
Is that right? Yeah.
I was purveying a bag
Mark,
of these.
who's our health correspondent,
once upon a time.
It's true.
Yeah. As she said, you don't want to go anywhere near them.
They've got something on here called fonio.
Folio?
Or fonio.
Fonio?
Fonio.
I mean, only a left wing...
What in the name of Fanny Craddock is fonio? There's a cultural reference for the kids.
Yeah. I bumped into a mate of mine the other day who I hadn't seen for many, many years, and we used to work together at Scotland Yard way back in the day. And he was he brought up a conversation that we'd had many moons ago about why I won't eat pate. And he was laughing because apparently donkeys years ago when pate was offered, I refused to eat it because I saw it as being too left-wing.
You saw it as?
Being too left-wing.
Too left-wing?
Yeah.
That's a good, pate.
And I think pate is essentially.
Should we have a list of left-wing foods?
I think pesto is left-wing, and I still don't know what that is. It just sounds left-wing.
Pesto is interesting, isn't it? Because it is, again, pesto pasta. Sounds, I mean, to me, when I was a kid, pasta came in a tin and it was called spaghetti.
Yeah.
That's as near as we got to pasta.
Then it went all up market and they turned it into hoops, didn't they? And do you know what? I still have a tin of spaghetti hoops in my cupboard, right?
Do you?
And I love it because it's so quick. 2 slices of toast, tin of spaghetti hoops, warmed up in the microwave, takes 2.5 minutes, grated cheese on top, bit of tomato ketchup on the side, I know which is excessive. Oh, mate, what a breakfast. Or a lunch if you're in a hurry.
See, I would replace that for beans. Every day. But same point.
Yeah.
Or a little bit of cheese on the top.
Oh, no, plenty of cheese on. Plenty of grated cheese on top.
Yeah, that works. I like the idea of collating our own left-wing food list as well.
Yeah.
You can drop
avocados, left-wing.
Avocado, absolutely. Avocado, pure Marxist, in fact.
Yeah.
Marxist bit of kit, if ever there was one, is your avocado.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all right. They're quite tasty, but they're a bit of a faff as well.
I worked with a bloke, and we went up to Liverpool, and we're sitting in a cafe, right? And it was kind of one of these modern pseudo kind of cafes, you know, cafe/restaurant.
Yeah.
And he ordered for breakfast smashed avocado. And I kid you not, it looked like something that the dog had thrown up. It was absolutely disgusting. I just looked at it. I went, "You're going to eat that?" Oh, appalling. I had egg and bacon.
There's a little coffee shop round the corner from us, and I don't ask me how this happened, because this is in my own house. This happened. And I was going to do some bits, and I said to Mother, I said, I'll stop by and grab a coffee. Do you want one? She said, yeah. I'll have an oat milk vanilla matcha latte, please. I said, what? Now, anything that's got that many words in it, frankly, should be refused service. It's like a coffee shop that serves any drink with ice in it, you should be refused service. Because I've missed trains because I'm behind somebody who's ordering one of those kind of fancy ice things. Oat milk, chalky, thin, skinny, Wookie Doodah, matcha, latte, vanilla.
I'm sorry to impose, but you clearly have work to do at home, don't you? There are members of your family that need work.
Here's the stinger, though, Peter, OK? So I order the coffee and the oat milk, vanilla, matcha, latte. And she says, thank you very much, £11.50, please. And I went, £11.50? And I got a little cookie thing in there as well. She said, yeah, the matcha thing is, I think it was £6.90 for this drink.
Left wing, you see. It's a socialist drink.
It's a socialist drink.
Only a socialist could afford it.
She's from Essex. She should know better, frankly. She wouldn't have asked for that in Billericay, I can tell you.
Yeah, that's shocking.
Folk would be pointing at her.
Absolutely shocking.
So there's an interesting... They've come up with this list because they think, obviously, it's very useful. Mixed fruit and nuts. You know, I don't mind nuts, but, you know, they're not something that I think instinctively working people, when they go shopping for the family, they think, I must get some dried fruit and some mixed nuts. I don't think that's standard fare.
Can I just interrupt there, please?
Pimento peppers.
Can I just interrupt there, please? With an advert that people may have remembered from yesteryear, everyone's a fruit and nut case. Crazy for those Cadbury's nuts and raisins. Fruit and nuts should be wrapped around chocolate.
100%.
Served in a bar, OK? End of discussion.
Right. OK, here's a fact then. Do you remember who did whose voice it was?
No. Come on.
On the fruit and nut. It was a... I don't know whether he was an actor or a sort of... But his name was Frank Muir.
Oh, yeah, I remember Frank Muir. He used to be on that wonderful quiz.
He was the sort of guy that sits on a panel, like Call My Bluff. Those
very witty, bright man.
Witty, sort of very, you know, posh chap, you know.
Yeah.
But very good. Yeah, he was the fruit and nut man.
There you go.
It's not on the list, although they have put chocolate on the list.
Have they?
The one thing that I can't work out is, have you ever had a kumquat, by the way?
Is that? Are you chatting me up?
Oh, Peter, your eyes look great in this time of the morning.
I've no idea what you're talking about.
No, I'm not sure what a kumquat is, but I often reference it because it's just got a funny, sort of slightly carry-on film name. But is it CUMQUAT or something of that nature? I don't know what it is. The other thing they've got on the list is an aubergine. I've never bought an aubergine in my life. I've never gone to a shop and said, excuse me, can you tell me where the aubergines are, please?
No. I have them if I go to Greece on holiday.
That's where you might, come across...
What's that lovely Greek dish they do with aubergine in it?
Oh, is that the aubergine special?
It's... Isn't it slight? There's somebody will know.
Somebody will know.
I quite like that.
Matthew says, can I request T-bone steak and Stella is added to the list? Bang on, says Matthew in Swansea. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sam in Barnsley says, morning, gents. Left-wing food, sourdough bread and cottage cheese.
There you go.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sourdough bread's become a big thing. Thanks to a fella called Jason. I don't know whether Jason actually exists, but Jason's sourdough is all over the place. I see it in the supermarket. I think it's looking at me.
My son bought some sourdough once upon a time.
Yeah.
I
Still
thought
talking.
It was so hard, I thought they were bathroom tiles or something, right? Okay. It was like concrete.
Yeah.
And the only way I thought you could make it remotely edible was to toast it. And then if you do toast it, you have to be so careful about how you eat it.
Well, yes.
If your teeth are my age.
Yeah, when you get that... You don't want crunchy bread, for goodness sake. That just becomes a biscuit. Essential food, this comes from Ian, cracked black pepper and pink Himalayan salt. It may require a Peter Murrell-style salt and pepper set.
Going to say at $2.5 grand a pop or whatever
I was going to say, yeah,
for those.
He did well there. So this is the government's idea of essential food. It's their list of 125 everyday essentials that will see lower prices due to planned tariff cuts. The biggest disappointment for me is that KFC is not on this list. I will argue for the rest of the time that's one of your 5 a day. Your kids should be eating that stuff at least 8 times a week.
In all seriousness, doesn't it highlight just how detached those people in government are from the everyday alarm clock, hard-working Brits? Completely detached.
Now, here's something that I see. I know this is not left-wing food, Peter, but because I know lots of people who like them and they sell them in chip shops. But I don't understand them at all. I find them suspicious. And that is a gherkin.
Oh, now, you see, I'm going to argue that a wally, as we call them, is not left-wing at all.
I know.
It's pickled. It's like a pickled onion. You know, these things were pickled to preserve them in days gone by our past generations so that we could enjoy them.
They had stuff to eat, yeah.
And it's essentially a cucumber, and it's a pickled cucumber of sorts.
It is. It looks like something that's come from an alien autopsy, doesn't it? I don't know how they've got away with this for years. What about pickled eggs?
Now, not my favourite, but again, a staple of working class food. When you're standing there and you've gone in there for your fish and chips, it's a Friday, and you see that big jar, of course it has to be a big jar, pickled eggs, and you see that...
just one egg was in a jar.
All my lifetime, I have contemplated, shall I try one?
Yeah.
But then I look at it and I go, no, and I go, 2 pickled onions, please.
So you've never tried a pickled egg?
Never, no, I just can't.
As a kid, I remember trying it as a kid, and I worked in a chippy as well when I was at school.
Okay.
So, but I don't think I ever trousered a pickled egg when I was there. I'd always get the chips and stuff to take home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's odd, isn't it? Because the guy that owned the chippy used to go, at the end of the night, you can take home whatever you like. But, like, at midnight, you're not really that fussed about fish and chips when you've just worked 10 hours. Yeah, and you're about to go home and you're 15. Yeah. So that is the government's big, fat list. Your suggestions, please, on 0344 499 1000, what you would call essential food. As distinct from what the government and their special advisors call essential food. And also we've managed to begin our own list of what we call left-wing food as well. And an avocado is definitely kind of the king of the left-wing food. Emma says, good morning, Ian and Peter. Are you thinking of moussaka with the aubergine?
Moussaka, thank you very much. Yeah, love a bit of that when I'm in Greece.
Yeah, that's the one. Ian and Peter. When I was young and started eating pasta dishes, my mum would refuse it, calling it foreign food. So my mum used to say things like, that's foreign food, as if that made it something wrong with. Somehow she didn't realise that foreign food pasta was just a different shape of the macaroni that she made a huge casserole dish of once a week. Yeah. They're all in the same ballpark. I like that. So left-wing food, please. Essential food as well. We've got loads more to come on to, by the way. Tony Blair gave an interview yesterday talking about class. He gave a couple of interviews because he wrote an essay which is an odd thing to do when you're a 72-year-old man, but he wrote an essay, 5,000 words, about what is wrong with our system, why we're about to potentially have our 7th Prime Minister in 10 years or something. I thought that was a really good point. He said, overarchingly, he said, a country can't ever function properly if you're having 7 Prime Ministers in a decade. You've got something wrong, because you need some sort of sustainability. You need a grander plan. He wasn't even talking about left wing, right wing. He was just saying you need a philosophy. You need an idea. Thatcher had an idea. Blair had an idea. He went a bit wrong in the end. But, you know, the point, and so did Thatcher, you could argue. But the point is, we don't have that at the moment. We just have people who want to be the Prime Minister. Boris Johnson wanted to be the Prime Minister. He wanted to be able to say in his later life he'd been the Prime Minister, but he didn't like the bit in the middle.
Yeah, the work.
The actual being the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, cut of similar cloth. I see Andy Burnham, if he is the next bloke to step into number 10, in a similar place as well. Burnham has attacked him, saying Blair doesn't know what's going on in modern working class communities. Talked about the fact that Blair didn't mention inequality, because these are the buzzwords of the left. You mention inequality, and somehow just by saying it, you've raised a fundamental point, and therefore you're a good guy and everybody else isn't. You can talk about inequality, of course you can, in the right context. Just throwing it out there. We had, what was it, Richard Power Saeed, left-wing commentator yesterday, who actually, we should have had a buzzer from when someone uses the phrase either billionaire or billionaire media owner, because those two things. He just talked about how many billionaire media owners are there in the world? Probably 6, who apparently are hoovering up all the money, and that's why my sister is perpetually skinned, because of Rupert Murdoch or something. I mean, this is a nonsense. This is an absolute nonsense.
My contempt for Tony Blair runs deeper than any ocean.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's not just the obvious, it's not just Iraq, but of course we can't ignore that. My contempt for Blair also dates back many decades to when he started to sow the seeds of this Japanese knotweed of liberalism and wokery and all the kind of nonsense that plagues our nation today. He sowed the seeds of that, and it has, like Japanese knotweed, got so entrenched into our public services, our civil service, that it's going to take a 2-term government to even begin to rip it all out and swing the pendulum back to some kind of sensible position. Anyway, however, what he said yesterday, by and large in this essay, I have to agree with much of it.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to get elected and you're going to run the country, and say, for example, you think you've got a 5-year term, you have to have a vision. What is that vision? So I asked myself, what would my vision be in the entirely unlikely event that I ever ran for elected office, say the highest job in the land? And my vision would be two-pronged. I would say to everybody that was in the cabinet and to everybody, this is what you need to bear in mind. This is the philosophy, the commitment to which I have, in a very kind of Thatcher-esque kind of manner. Because let's face it, she was a commitment politician, wasn't she? She was committed to what she believed in, whether you liked it or not. And for me, it would be lower energy costs and lower taxes. However we achieve those, that has to be the absolute ultimate end goal, and everything else will benefit around that as a result.
Absolutely. And on that point, just a final point, what Blair said in that. In fact, let's have a little clip of Blair talking about how the government are not always the people to solve problems. Here he is.
By the end of this decade, if we don't stop this explosion in claims of working-age people for incapacity disability benefit, we're going to have almost 5 million people, and the state's got to carry that cost. And if you look at where it's coming from, a large proportion of it is from mental health. And you know, you compare us now with other countries, it's not the same. So you've got to, if you're looking at the situation of the country in a rational way, you've got to come to terms with some of these problems, and you can't just hope that they solve themselves, or that you can carry on with this big cost on welfare at the same time as you're trying to prioritize investment in education, in infrastructure, and of course in defense.
And he's right. I mean, you can't sustain that. He also talks about Britain being left behind as well. You know, the world is changing, AI and all that. Although I think I think I'm right in saying we're quite, after China and America, we're right up there with things like AI and stuff like that. However, his point is we're getting left behind because politicians don't have a vision. They don't have a big idea of where the country goes and how to manage it. And they're more interested in politics rather than policy. And that's the problem.
And the current breed, including this government, from the Prime Minister down,
100%.
are dreadful at politics.
Yeah.
They're absolutely dreadful at it, which is why they're so rampantly unpopular.
Correct.
Which is bizarre. They focus on politics rather than perhaps policy, and they are dreadful, absolutely appalling at it. I've had the great pleasure this year of travelling the length and breadth of the UK.
You're on tour. We'll talk about your tour in a bit.
Yes. But it's not a plug, it's just a fact. We have driven thousands upon thousands of miles in the first 5 months of this year, and I have gained a huge understanding and appreciation for when people say the majority of this country is run by small businesses, and it is. When you look at them on the motorway, the sign-written vans, when you drive along the streets, unfortunately my wife's doing the driving on tour, so I get to do the looking while my wife is doing the driving, lover. And you see all these businesses, whether it's on industrial estates, high streets, wheresoever it may be, and you realise that they are the engine room of the economy.
Correct.
And they are, of course, driven and led by brilliant people. We've got so much talent in this country. So many people, whether they're running their small building firm, whether it's a window cleaning firm, whether whatever it may be, whatever sector it is, you need to be sharp and smart and bright and on the button to turn a profit, employ people, and hopefully be able to pay for a decent holiday and something nice under the Christmas tree.
Bang on.
And we've got zillions of people in this country, forgive the exaggeration, that are doing exactly that, and they are being massively failed. The problems they talk about today, about all these NEETs are not in employment, education and training, and we might get onto that, and so on. So much of it, we've got the talent out there. What we have to do is stop letting people into this country who simply shouldn't be here, get rid of people who shouldn't be here. That will save us billions upon billions, and then we can start to turn our culture around by encouraging young people. Do you know what? You see that job that's been done by somebody who doesn't look like you, who's serving coffee all day long? Actually, that can be a gateway. That can be your first rung on the ladder.
Correct.
You can learn how to run a small business. You, in 5 years' time, might want to buy a franchise. You might want to break out and start your own business. All these things are doable if we harness the energy, the brains and the brilliance of this nation, and we get lower energy bills and lower taxes.
Absolutely bang on. Peter Bleksley is with us. More from him in a couple of moments. Your calls, points, voice notes as well. 0344 499 1000. We want to pick up on Tony Blair and his wider point about the future of this country. Left-wing food and essential food. They're two slightly different subjects, but we're running with both of them. Lines are open. You can message 87222. This is Talk.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
The UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, 6:30. It's Ian Collins in for Jezza, who's back on Monday. Peter Blexley is with us. One of the curious things about my job is that I don't panic about this job. I've done it so long. I don't get nervous as such. There's a bit of an adrenaline thing. But what does happen is that, particularly with this shift, the night before, when I'm at home mooching about, I'm thinking, what are we going to talk? What's going to be the subject that, because you categorise these things in your head. I won't go into all the details because every presenter does it differently. So there's the big story, but the biggest story might not be the biggest debate. So it might not be up for a debate. If you're talking about, I don't know, nuclear fusion or something, then maybe there's a big story about that. But no one's going to do. Bob in Arbroath's not going to call you with his wisdom on that. So, but then there's the other category subjects and just get people nattering and chatting and the kind of stuff we all talk about. So I'm always mindful. What's it going to be today? So when I was literally coming into work, I had no idea that we were going to talk about the food thing. And the food thing has just gone nuts. We have got such great response. I'm going to run through some of these, Peter, because you'll like this. Ian and Peter, left-wing food. Falafel, kefir, granola, sweet potato. This is Jess in Dover. Sweet potato, that's a big one, isn't it? Yeah. That's big these days.
Yeah, that's Corbyn left, that is.
Yeah. That's Corbyn left, sweet potato.
Yeah.
Potato, please. Only sweet. Get in the bin. Tony says, Ian and Peter, essential food, a nice double pie and mash.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, lovely.
Quinoa has to be, this is from Jules in London, quinoa has to be on the left-wing food list. It's actually on this list. Surely it should be pronounced quinoa, but somehow it's quinoa. Sorry, I should have said quinoa. I was reading his second point. Quinoa should be pronounced quinoa, if you look at how it's written.
You could be talking in Swahili as far as I'm concerned, because I've no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, let's get a voice note on this from Andy. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Ian, Peter. Just talking about food being left and right wing. Well, a good mate of mine, he seems to have a bit of a thing about paninis at the moment. He grew up working class, for a proper old lad, grew up working class. And we went for a breakfast recently in a cafe. I said, what do you want, mate? Full English. He said, I'll just have a panini. Panini? I nearly swung for him. Panini. Anyway, yeah, we're still friends, but... And he started to say nice things about Jeremy Corbyn recently as well, which... Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that you can add panini. A panini. Well, I'm not sure what that is. Add a panini to the list of left-wing foods, mate. Have a good day.
Andy, that is brilliant. I think you've got to really have a chat with your mate. Panini, that's true. That's a bread roll.
Well, now we're getting very close to a bread debate here. Right. Panini.
There's nothing wrong with being close to one.
Veering left wing, okay. Baguette, left wing, but I do like a French stick. You see, I would argue that a French stick, you go in and buy one about a yard long.
It's a good job Charlie Rowley isn't on today and you said that. That would have been the end of the show.
They're about a yard, aren't they? And you pick them up. They're always near the door in the co-op or whatever. Yeah. See, and I like to bring that home because I think that can be a relatively inexpensive lunch for 4 or 5. I agree. Take a chunk, fill it with what you want, bit of cheese and pickle, cheese and Marmite, or go all posh, go a bit left wing, tuna and mayo, if you want to.
Yeah, you could do that.
See, so I think there's a whole...
A baguette is good. See, that because we've just got so used to saying baguette, but that's obviously French, le baguette.
Yeah.
I see you sticking it on in your basket on your bike and driving down the road with a beret on, Peter. Is that your is that your thing? Yeah, I mean, bread rolls, really. We've changed the names of bread in a big way. Now, Ray here, Ray's in Norfolk, says, I'm a Del Boy man, hash browns and onion rings. Can I just raise something here? Right, because this now goes into fry-up territory, and there's always a debate on that. Firstly, what sauce you have, red or brown, on a fry-up. It's red, by the way, just in case you're wondering, but brown in a bacon sandwich. So there's that. A hash brown has no place in a fry-up. None whatsoever. None. No potato product in a fry. You know, you go in a cafe every now and again. You're there, say, this time of the morning, go in a cafe, and there's a bloke sitting there. He's got sausage, egg, bacon, beans, and chips. He said, well, what are you doing? Chips for breakfast? No. Hash browns? No.
So imagine you've come over to my house.
You're going to disagree with me, aren't you?
Well, just picture the scene. You've come to my house on a Saturday night, and my wife has cooked food, and maybe there's lovely Jersey new potatoes.
I love a Jersey new potato.
In that meal on the Saturday night. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nice handsome slab of butter drizzling down over them. And do you know why Jersey potatoes used to have the taste they had? Because they harvested the seaweed and used that as fertiliser in Jersey on their new potatoes.
Lovely factoid from Bexley.
Sadly, they don't do it anymore. They grow them under like plastic canopies or whatever. Yeah, exactly. So if there's potatoes left over, new potatoes, and I'm doing a fry-up on Sunday morning, right? We've all fallen out of bed, whatever time it might be. Go, fancy a bit of a fry-up? I will slice those new potatoes that have been left over and fry them up as part of the fry-up.
Part of the fry-up, morning. Yeah. You need to be arrested, Blexley. It's a sim for potato crimes. I get that a bit more. Do you crush them a bit?
No, slice them.
Slice them. Yeah, okay.
But get the fat really hot so they are nice, brown and crispy.
Simon in Durham says, where does pot noodle fit into this list? I love them. Beef and tomato for me used to be original curry. See, a pot noodle, my little boy's just going to... I think I'm safe in saying I don't think any good can come of a pot noodle in the health department, can it? I don't know, because it's sort of purporting to be... It's dried food. We used to be told as kids it's the sort of thing that, you know, the army take on manoeuvres. It was called... There's a name for it, isn't there, that dried food? It's called something or other. Where you just add water to it. But then they turned it into a pot noodle. When I was a kid, I think they came out, and they were amazing.
Yeah, and I don't think the pot noodle is necessarily left-wing, although, of course, a lot of students eat them when they're at uni. So
it's because they cost about £1 a pot.
Students will inherently try and drag it towards left-wing.
Mark in Selby raises something that always gets a mention on any shows I do for a variety of reasons. Essential food. Fray Bentos, steak and kidney pies and Angel Delight, washed down with dandelion and burdock. Now, dandelion and burdock I'm really familiar with because I was born in the north, and although it's not exclusively a northern drink, there's so many people I speak to who don't know what dandelion and burdock is.
My shoulders have slumped. I've tilted forward. I am just desperate now for Angel Delight.
You like Angel
I loved it. It was such a treat in my childhood.
Yeah.
Oh, my word, the flavour strawberry. Oh, yes, please. Must go shopping later.
You're going to get some.
Yeah.
It's in a sachet, isn't it? You can get it in a sachet.
Yeah, and you mix it up,
And you mix it up.
Yeah, stick it in.
Now, your Fray Bentos steak and kidney pie, OK? Now, the Fray Bentos people are clearly very diligent and very successful. Yeah. But if you go into a supermarket and turn the pie over, because it's in that round tin can the size of a dartboard, you turn it around, and the sell-by date is often like 2037.
Yeah.
And you think, what the hell is in that? What is in that?
Well, there's no air in it, which is why it lasts so long. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with the Fray Bentos. But I'm a bit more of a pastry pie man, really. The one that leans itself towards suet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's got that certain taste to it. There's a softness to it. Yeah. I love a pie. Again, pastry is no good for you. Mark Mark here just made a good point. You know, who knows what bubble and squeak is these days? Because, you know, people put all sorts of it. You know,
rampant debate. Love a bit of bubble. Love a bit of bubble. But most people that come to our house and see mine and my wife's version of bubble usually reach for the bathroom because they feel ill. Now,
well, what the hell do you put in it?
Well, so picture the scene: Sunday roast.
Yes.
Okay, and my wife will routinely do about 7 veg on a Sunday roast, including the potatoes.
That's a lot of
She
veg.
prides herself on it. She loves it. So if we've had friends over and there's veg over, no matter what, that all goes together, all gets mashed up and becomes a bubble with the leftover gravy. Goes in the freezer, and then one night when it's just myself and the wife and we think, we don't want to do much cooking tonight, out comes a bubble, right?
In the pan.
Couple of eggs on top, poached eggs or fried eggs. Okay. This, that and the other. Brown sauce.
Brown sauce, yeah, that works.
Very good for you.
Or pickle. I quite like pickle.
Okay.
All right, don't fall out with me over it.
I'm not. Each to their own.
He looked at me then like I was dirt and he was Domestos.
No, pickles as right-wing as Thatcher is a lovely, lovely food. But I'd prefer it with cheese and pickle sandwich.
Can I just also go deeper into the pickle?
Yeah.
This will be controversial. Small chunks.
Modern tripe, that is. I mean that's...
Because it wasn't that long ago they brought out the small chunks and I was so happy. Because like, if I chop up a broccoli, for example, you know, a floret of broccoli, right, but someone cuts one off and they'll put it in the pan. That floret I will cut up into 4 sections. I don't want big anything on my... You know, if you go to some of those sort of fast sort of Sunday dinner, I'm not going to mention Toby Carvery, but those kind of places, you get potatoes the size of cricket balls. No good to me. I want smallish potatoes. That big potato, I'd cut that up into about 8.
You should be at home claiming benefits for your ADHD.
Tender stem broccoli, of course, is different because the stem is the...
See what I mean? You just proved my point.
We're going to pause momentarily. We're back with more of this. We're talking left-wing food. There's a reason, by the way. We're not just riffing on, like, isn't it a nice day to talk about grub. The government have come up of a list of what they call 125 everyday essentials. There's a lot of stuff. Quinoa was one of them. I mean, green tea. I mean, how many people drink green tea, for God's sake?
I bet Jeremy Corbyn drinks green tea.
I thought you were going to say Jeremy Kyle for a second.
I bet Jeremy Corbyn drinks green tea.
Once in a while you're with something, would you like a tea or coffee? I'll just have a green tea. It's like, well, what really? What are you going to get out of the green tea?
I mean, who has a green tea and a digestive? I bet they don't, do they?
No.
They have green tea and quinoa, whatever that is.
That's what you'd have, isn't it?
Is it?
Quinoa, and some of the other bits and pieces that are on the list, which include avocados, couscous, tropical fruit is on there as well.
With a side of pate and a dash of pesto.
Yeah, all of that stuff. These are government advisors that sat around a table and go, what? They got, Pandora, the special advisor, to say, come up with a list that normal people eat, Pandora. And she went, well, obviously couscous is going to be on there, isn't it? Quinoa is a must. And green tea is my go-to. So that's kind of how it came up. 0344 499 1000. You drop us a voice note there as well. We're talking about Tony Blair too. We are going to get into in the next section as well why it is that 1 in 6 people will not be in education or employment or even training within 5 years. That number is massive. It's disturbing. And fundamentally, it's not sustainable. What's happened and what is the answer? All of that and more on the way, and your calls and comments too. It's coming up on 7:15. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
7:15, Ian Collins in the big Jeremy Kyle hot seat for today and tomorrow. He's back on Monday. Mark just mentioned Piccalilli. That doesn't get a look in these days very much.
It's a Christmas thing, isn't it, Piccalilli? You only ever buy it at Christmas. I buy it for my brother-in-law. He's mad for it. I had a distant
What's
relative.
a Christmas present?
Piccalilli. Well, no, not as a present, but I make sure we've got it.
I'd be gutted if
they're coming to stay.
Happy Christmas. Here's some Piccalilli.
Yeah. Well, even so, I think it would make
an apple.
Would make a nice gift.
It's all festive benevolence around Peter's house.
But we have to make sure we have it in there, and also we have to have brown sauce for him because he's definitely in the brown sauce camp, whatever form of brekkie we make him. And once upon a time, I remember going to some distant relatives, and they had Piccalilli with a posh little silver spoon. You know, just like a narrow spoon with a little thing, only the size of
a
like
kind of contrasting
a one-piece thing.
Yeah.
And you used to, and it was odd, and it stuck with me forever. I suspect that sort of spoon now will be used for consuming other kind of things. But anyway,
exactly would, yeah. I love this though from JB in Aberdeenshire, who says, "Lads, you've got it all wrong with your food divisions." He's not about left wing, right wing food. He says it's man food or girl food. He goes on to give an example: chili burger, man food; tuna mayo, girl food.
Well, that's okay, but if we go further down this route, both you and I will never work again, right? Because
true. Yes.
Because we will be accused of all sorts of
gender
misogyny
crimes.
and
I'd love to read the Ofcom conclusion report on this one.
Yeah.
At one point, the presenter explicitly suggested that tuna mayo was the domain and the chosen food of girls.
Yeah.
Our research shows they would do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a bit of a division on, I mean, even things like steak, I would say, is, you know, obviously I know my other half loves to cook one the other day, but she did say, can I just have half of it?
Yeah, well, how much did you buy?
Well, I didn't buy a cow.
Right. I mean, well, I love a steak. It's a rare treat, but I do love a bit of steak. Go to the cash and carry.
How do you have it cooked?
Of it. Well, I have to see. I'll have it medium rare.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But my wife, she's a bit posh, so she goes rare.
Yeah.
Again, you see, I do think you can kind of you can judge somebody's social status on how they have their steak cooked.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's another.
That's true. Yeah, how you have it cooked. I mean, my mum would. Our kitchen on a Sunday, I've told this story before, was like a war zone. And I don't know why she chose to do the washing, the Sunday roast, and she used to do a bit of baking as well, all at the same time. And you'd open the door. It was like flipping Hiroshima in there. I'm telling you, it was an absolute outrage. There was smoke everywhere. My mum, she had flour on her face. She was making some jam tarts from her dad's packed lunch because she was old-fashioned like that. It wasn't a automatic washing machine. It was one of those twin tub things.
Yeah, top
where
loader.
you had a pipe going across your kitchen.
Yeah.
There was always one of those horrible Radio 2 old-fashioned music programmes playing. The Nightingale Sings, you know, going in the background, and you'd think, "What? This is just my worst." And of course, Sunday was a boring day for kids anyway because it was bath night and it was school. It was night before school, so everything fed into it. It was an absolute war zone in there. And how did I get into talking about that, by the way? Well, different preparations of food. And the funny thing is, my mum had the largest collection of cookbooks you've ever seen. My mum's number one hatred was cooking. She just liked cookbooks.
There you go.
She hated cooking. She loathed it. That's her overcooking stuff.
Did she have Mrs.
could
Beaton's?
overcook.
Did she have Mrs. Beaton's cookbook?
She probably had that. She had Fanny Craddock. Was it Marguerite Patton or something like
Marguerite
that?
Patton,
all of those kind of things. She had the whole lot going on. When my mum fried an egg, it was like a warning bell went off in the house. Oh, Mum's about to fry an egg. as high heat as you can possibly get. That egg would go in there. The splashes would, neighbours were knocking on the windows going, "Stop it, Margaret, stop it." It was an outrage. It was, I don't know what she did. She never discovered that turning the heat down could actually give you something more tasty.
Which leads me on to that.
But she fed us every day, so I'm not complaining.
Love her. And it feeds me on to that wonderful Bob Monkhouse joke, which so many people objected to and called him a misogynist and this, that and the other. And he said, yeah, I wouldn't say my wife's a bad cook, but she uses the smoke alarm as a timer.
That's a great line.
Rest his soul, Bob Monkhouse.
That would have been absolutely appropriate. Now, here's another one. Stevie D says, can you ask Peter if peanut butter is left-wing?
It's just American. It's just American. Get it across the Atlantic. It shouldn't be allowed in the UK. We should have gunships patrolling the North Sea and the Atlantic to ensure that peanut butter never arrives on these shores.
Yeah, I've got a peanut butter
Awful.
at 9:45 coming over the channel. Yes, maybe that's the next thing on the channel, peanut butter. So you don't touch it, peanut butter?
No.
I quite like peanut butter, but not crunchy peanut butter.
No. 1,000% tariffs on it.
That's what you want. That's the way around it. So we'll continue to take your calls and comments on that because they've been absolutely brilliant. Let's just talk a little bit about this harrowing headline. 1 in 6 young people will not be in education, employment or training within 5 years unless urgent action is taken. This is Alan Milburn. They've sort of trickled out the headlines of this over the course of the week. He's a former health secretary in the Blair or Brown government, respected across parties, nice bloke and all the rest of it, ordinary thinking fella. He's come up with this huge report on, what is wrong, from social media to things like employment. 1 in 6 young people will not be working in 5 years' time unless major action is taken.
Well, let's follow the DNA trail of this appalling story, shall we? Because it leads all the way back to 1997 and the election of that pernicious Tony Blair. So much of this is to do with white working class kids and young and kids per se, including those from middle class backgrounds and the such like. Because Blair came up with this, I want 50% of people to go to university, young people to go to university, right? And it's got worse ever since, okay? University is not suitable for everybody. And there are thousands of young people going to university, incurring huge sums of debt, and for which they are getting, in return, a pointless, useless degree, which will never have any impact upon their working life whatsoever. It's absolute. They were sold a lie, a very expensive lie.
Yep.
And secondly, do not ever believe any left-wing, any Labour politician that tells you we are the party of the working people. And I'll tell you why. Blair imported all those Eastern Europeans into the UK, which undercut tradesmen, and I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, right? Chippies, sparks, plasterers, the lot. Everybody was undercut by those thousands of Poles that came over, and Blair let it happen, encouraged it, facilitated it, because they looked down their noses at the working class people. They looked down their noses at people in their vans today with their tools in the back, and that's why they let all those people in who undercut British tradespeople, undercut them, for some people out of the industry, for some people to go and live and work abroad, absolutely destroyed the wages and therefore the ambitions of the white working class tradespeople. And this is why now, historically, generationally, so many have not followed their father's footsteps.
The same kind of trade.
Into the trades.
And, I don't blame the Poles for coming over and giving it a go. Good luck to them. But that system should not have been allowed.
Should never have been allowed. But they just look down their noses at us. All these politicians in Westminster, not so far away from the studio, they look down their noses at the like of me, not only because of the fact that I left school at 16, but the way I talk and the fact that I'm just a bloke, just like they do to all those brilliantly talented tradespeople out there today who are going to work as we speak.
Yeah.
They look down their noses at people like us.
And working long, long days, trying to make ends meet, trying to feed the family, put food on the table, try if you can to get a little holiday with the kids. Everybody wants their kids to have a better life than they did. That's kind of like the sort of primal ambition, I think, of parents. I don't think it's exclusive to dads, but I think dads really feel that visceral sense of, you know, I want to be able to give something to my kids that I couldn't have given to me. And successive governments have made that so much harder for the average working person in this country. And we see it now with the cost of living. Send them to university, darling. It's the best way forward. No, it's not. And we've lost out on that. And we've now got 1 in 6 kids. 1 in 6 young people will be idle in 5 years. I mean, that's a massive... The figure is just... It's almost impossible to imagine what that looks like in terms of amounts of people, Peter, and the knock-on effect that that's going to have.
Yeah, but as a nation, we've got a bit snooty. We've got a bit uppity. We've got a bit up ourselves. Not only do the politicians look down their noses at people, but I think there's people who may have originated from backgrounds that weren't necessarily wealthy, but they will look down their noses now, perhaps, at the person serving us that coffee, at the person who's standing at a ticket barrier, at the person who is doing those kind of jobs, all of which we would have embraced and would have done 30, 40 years ago, because they would have been either well paid and given us a pension at the end of it, or a gateway to promotion, working within the company, your carriage clock, 40 years and all that game. But it's gone, it's lost. We need to get it back.
This comes from back to the food question from Batman, who says, morning Ian and Pete, I disagree with you. I'm a veteran, white and bald, so that allegedly makes me a racist, misogynistic, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, patriarchal bigot. And I like sweet potato fries.
Look, if he protects Gotham City, OK, he can eat as many sweet potato fries as he wants. I think Adam West was a very, very philanthropic kind of guy. And to put his spare time into keeping the residents of Gotham safe was a very charitable thing to do.
Let's get a voice note from Pete on the issue of food. Morning, Pete.
Good morning, both of you. You can always tell when a place is going lefty. Instead of it being a cafe, it's now a cafe. You know, without even that little inflection on the end, over the top of the E. Let's go to the cafe. No, when you go for a full English fry-up, you go to a cafe. Watch that bacon and smell it being cooked on top of that griddle, and those eggs with the brown bit on the bottom where it's been burnt. Oh, yes, you couldn't ask for more, could you? Nice big old fat mug of tea on the top and you're sorted for the day. Don't get overheated today. Bye-bye.
Good man, Pete. Thank you very much indeed for that. Finally, Dan in Kent, when was the last time you saw a vegan capitalist, Ian? They simply don't exist. Fair point. Peter, we've hit the clock. We're out of time.
What a joy it's been. Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. In 5 seconds, where's your next gig? You're touring around the country.
Eastleigh next Thursday. Then I'm in Scotland. 5 dates in Scotland. Arbroath, Aberdeen, Glasgow, Edinburgh, all of them.
Good work. Peter Blexley, good to see you. Thank you. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
At 11:16 this morning, 2 men, aged 76 and 34, were attacked on Highfield Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's okay to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Polanski last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me. Because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is indeed Talk. 0344 499 1000. Good morning, Ian Collins in for Jeremy Carley's back on Monday, of course. Big headline this morning: 1 in 6 people will not be in education, employment or training within 5 years unless urgent action is taken. This is part of the Alan Milburn review. They've looked at all elements of young people and their plight, from social media through to this. It isn't sustainable, of course. I think Blair even mentions this issue of welfare and unsustainability in the essay that he's put together. We'll come on to that in just a moment. What is the answer to this? I mean, serious question. What is the answer if we have 1 in 6 people who will not be working, they won't be in education, they won't be in any form of training? The numbers are so big, it's unimaginable to think of how many people that involves. And that could well be long-term as well. Elsewhere, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has hit back at that Tony Blair essay, saying Blair doesn't know what's going on in modern working-class communities. It's not all about class, Mr Burnham. And to be fair to Tony Blair, he wasn't really writing about that. He was talking more about the direction of travel from governments, whether they're left-wing, right-wing, or whatever they happen to be. Also this morning, birth rates are plummeting. Brits are simply no longer breeding like they used to, and the demographics are changing. Last year, 40% of births were to parents where one or both were foreign-born. In some areas, that figure rises to 84%. Is there anything disturbing to you about that, or is that just the new direction of travel? And this, I love this story. The local council who splashed out 2.4 million quid on what's being called Britain's first cycling road. Not a lane, an entire road. Bikes and pedestrians have priority. Motorists can just whistle, sit it out and wait their turn. This is madness. Taxpayers' money on, essentially, come on, it's a vanity project. Tell me about the cycle lane madness in your neck of the woods. I'll give you a run for your money on that one a little later, because they pop up and you think, look, I'm all for a cycle. If you can ride to work, fantastic. But how much money do you put into something that is going to be used by about 1% of the population? And the government has released the mother of all lists. It's called essential food items. There's 125 items on the list. As you might expect, someone didn't get the memo on what working people stick in a shopping basket. The list includes couscous, avocados, green tea, quinoa and tropical fruit. Give me your essential items for the dinner table, please. We also come onto the list of left-wing food versus right-wing food somehow, and boy food versus girl food has also been introduced into the... I know it's not a popular divide these days. Don't blame me, don't shoot the messenger. Mags says, now Mags goes to the bottom of the class for this one, there's very little I don't eat. I can't really think of anything I don't, at least I'll give it a go. There's stuff I like more than others. But Mags says, my essential food is beetroot. I can't... 2 reasons. 1, I just don't like the taste of it. 2, if you spill that stuff down your shirt, you look like you've been the victim of a knife attack, apart from anything else. And that ain't coming out, no matter how much Persil you rub into it. And coffee, Ian. Remember a bottle of Bon coffee in the old days? No latte then. I think my nan had coffee in it. It was like in a Worcester sauce bottle. But it was coffee. Was it Camp Coffee? Was it called Camp Coffee? I mean, that wouldn't pass the PR test these days, would it? But, yeah, did you put a drip of it? I have no idea. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's speak with Paul Richards, former Labour Special Advisor. Paul, morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
All right. I mean, you might be able to help us out on this left-wing food versus right-wing food.
I know.
We're just having a bit of fun with this. This list that the government have come up with, I mean, it's all to do with tariffs, essentially. There is a serious point to it. But it has got some curious stuff in it. Avocados are still really... They taste nice, an avocado. It's still posh-nosh, though, isn't it?
True. I think the avocado first appeared in a James Bond novel, didn't it? And he sort of was in France eating posh food, and the idea that nobody in post-war Britain had ever even seen an avocado. So Bond was showing his sophistication by having just one avocado with a spoon. Seems a long time ago. Now you can't move for it. The stuff, can you?
They're all over the place, yeah. And give them a little squeeze, don't you, to make sure they're ready to go, because you don't want one of those tough old things like a brick. But I don't honestly think, I'm not playing a class card here, Paul, I don't think I saw one till I was about 20.
No. Well, or cashew nuts, or pistachios, or quinoa. I mean, our food tastes do change. I'm quite glad about that. I mean, some of the food in the 70s, you really shouldn't have left the factory. On the other hand, maybe we have disappeared a little bit up ourselves. I mean, sourdough, I think, is the work of the devil. And
yes,
matcha, which is what all the young people... I mean, matcha is just mashed up leaves, isn't it? I don't know what the hell that is, but it's disgusting. The green stuff they sell in posh coffee shops.
Oh, you would have missed this, Paul, but literally only last weekend, I said to my other half, I'm going to stop by. I had to go to wherever, Halfords, I think, and on the way back, so I'm going to pop in that coffee shop and get a coffee. Do you want something? I kid you not, this is actually what she said. She said, I'll have an oat milk vanilla matcha latte.
What?
An oat milk vanilla. I mean, everything. I said to the girl in the car, I apologised when I ordered it. I said, I'm so sorry there's so many words in this order. That anyone who's got that many words in the order should not be served, frankly. They also cost about £6 or £7, these things.
Yeah.
Because the matcha, apparently... I got into a whole conversation with the lady in the cafe. The matcha thing is very expensive. If you go to the supermarket and buy a bag of this stuff, it'll cost you 30, 40 quid.
I don't even know what it is. It looks like grass clippings. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's somebody somewhere is making a lot of money.
I think it is. Well, there was something we mentioned earlier on called Fonio. Have you heard of Fonio?
I have not.
Or Fonio, which apparently is cultivated grass. That's on the essential list.
Well, you know, it's like I say, food tastes change. If you look at the ration from the war, the stuff on the ration, sugar, lard, loads of stuff that you wouldn't even be allowed to eat now.
You'd think everybody would have had a terminal illness by about the age of 20, but people anyway, still live a ripe old age.
What else is on the list, though? There must be normal food on the list.
Well, there is, oddly, and I don't...
Baked beans and butter.
They've got baked beans, they've got crisps, but they've also got, I don't know why, chewing gum is on the list.
That's not even a food.
It's not even a food. I mean, do people have their favourite chew? I remember Bazooka Joe's. Do they still exist?
I hope so, because I used to love those. You used to get a little card, didn't you, with those? I can't remember.
There was a tiny wrapper, wasn't there? The size almost of about 2 postage stamps. I don't know how you could... I couldn't read it now with glasses. It was so small, and you could send off for X-ray specs and things like that.
Yes.
But you had to collect a load of these little vouchers. And it was always... Do you remember this? It shows how our life has changed. Do you remember this phrase, Paul? Allow 28 days for delivery.
Of course, and the joy of that, even things like photographs, you had to send those away and get them back a month later. Remind yourself what you were doing. Yeah, and I think there's something lost in the instantness of our deliveries today, where you can order something and 3 hours later
I think
it appears.
It is
some of the joy has gone out of that. I mean,
it's
that
the instant gratification thing. My record, or certainly the time it jumped out at me, was ordering something from Amazon while I was laid in bed, and we've all done that. I thought, I need some of those. Woke up the next morning and there they were on the doorstep, and I just thought, that's just... I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's clearly amazing service. But
yeah,
it would have cost about 20 quid in petrol to bring me my £1.99 metal bracket.
Well, don't worry, Ian, because there'll be drones in about 6 months' time.
Yeah,
so you'll be getting it. There'll be a drone in your garden, and it'll be dropping everything off on your special landing port in the front garden, and nobody will touch us. They won't touch the sides.
Yeah,
and that'll be within minutes. I mean, terrifying but true. I mean, in London, you'll know there's driverless cars now working the streets because they're going to get licensed later this year. Driverless cars in London.
I know, it's incredible. It's a good job. Peter Murrell didn't know about the drones at the time. I mean, God knows what had been dropped off around his neck of the woods. Try dropping a camper van off with a drone.
I mean, that's a hell of a shopping list, isn't it? The stuff that he's got. We had, I mean, probably like everyone around the table last night was saying, how can you spend £2,000 on a pepper mill? I mean, I wouldn't know where to go to get one that costs that much.
It's one of those, it was one, and you'll sympathise with this, Paul, I think. You know, it's one of those stories that is, at its root, a very serious story. I mean, we're talking about fraud, we're talking about a man who is certainly going to go to jail, and we're talking about donations to a political party. Everything is terrible about it. However, no one could have not read that list and said, he bought what? He even bought himself a onesie.
Yes, I mean, for who? I dread to think, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it does remind me a little bit of the terrible expenses scandal of...
It's got echoes of that, hasn't it? Yeah.
And it was just the list of things that people were buying. You think, well, who has this stuff? Why do you want that in your life? It's just nuts.
Yeah, everyone always cites the Duck House, don't they, as being the...
Which, of course, did not get through the expenses process. They knocked it back and said, we're not paying for a duck house. So that's always cited, but actually that was one that the system...
The one that didn't get through the system. But the idea that a fully fledged human being thought it was okay to give it a go.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I'll have a try. Same with the people buying their poppies for Remembrance Sunday on expenses.
Indeed. Although it was often said in defence of MPs, because I remember there would always be stories like, you know, did you see that this MP for wherever has claimed for a Kit Kat on expenses? And, of course, it didn't quite happen like that, did it? What would happen is that when constituents come to see you, whoever it is, every single receipt is just put into a big pot. And at the end of the month, that's about 400 quid's worth of stuff you've bought, hospitality, teas, coffees, bit of cake, etc. Nobody specifically said, I'm going to buy a Kit Kat and then claim for it. It just got put into the almost petty cash sort of stuff.
Well, it was a screwy system as well, where they're boosting their own way. Their wages were capped, but then they boosted it with this expense. Everyone was at it, and it was just a completely... thank heavens we've got rid of that particular terrible system. Mind you, look at Fleet Street. I'm old enough from when journalists would put quite a lot on their expenses as well. Not all of it necessarily reflecting.
Well, that's true. Although it could be argued that was, you know, private money, not taxpayers' money. I suppose, you know, that's a reasonable point. Let's move. You went all quiet then, Paul. I thought that's
a fair point. That's a fair point.
I didn't hear what you said. I thought, have I upset Paul? We've only just started.
No, I was nodding in agreement.
Let's move to this, though, because this is upsetting for everybody. 1 in 6 young people not in education, employment and training within 5 years. This is the Anna Milburn report. For those who don't know, Anna Milburn, former Secretary of State, Health Secretary, widely respected, cross-party, decent man, very firm, solid, sort of ordinary upbringing, etc. He's put a lot of work into this. These headlines, whether you're Tory, Labour, Reform, whatever you are deeply disturbing, Paul.
It's really worrying. I mean, it's worrying on two levels for me. One, it's for the individual lives that are being wasted, and the number now heading north of 1 million young people doing nothing. But also, of course, it's the tragedy for the nation, because it means that we are being held back as a country and being denied talent and energy of the people who should be at their absolute best in their early 20s, who are doing nothing to help the growth in the economy either. So it's a double whammy of tragedy. And, Alan Milburn, as you say, terribly well respected. I certainly remember him as a Labour minister, one of the great modernisers, sorting stuff out, getting things done. And so he's now applied his talents to this big report commissioned by the government. So it's not, it is critical of government policy, but Pat McFadden wanted this on his table, on his desk, so the government can start to do something about it.
Is there an answer, though, Paul? Is there a way, like I know there's never this magic wand that could just be waved. No. Just final point. Is there something? Is there a release valve that can be pulled?
I think the main point it makes is, I'm sure you'll agree with this, is giving people a taste of work so they can see the world of work, even if it's unpaid, even if it's just a few weeks, work experience, apprenticeships, internships, anything at all, just a day in an office, something that gets them out of bed and they can see this alternative universe where if you work hard, you get money, or there's reward. And you and I probably did things like paper rounds, worked in shops, where we got work. The sort of connection between going out working and getting a bit of money at the end you could spend on a Saturday, in my case, would go down to King's Road or Soho or somewhere, and have a little bit of reward for the work. And that connection is completely broken. So there'll be people that say, oh well, just national service or whatever. I mean, we do need to expand the army. We need to have more apprenticeships, but mostly I think we need to get young people into work experience when they're 16, 17, alongside their studies. I saw Manchester University insisting that no graduate now won't have had some sort of work experience, which I think is a good step forward, and just making work something that is part of life, not something alien on a different planet that we don't understand.
Indeed. Paul, great to have you on with us as ever. Thank you. Paul Richards, former Labour Special Advisor. Let's cross and speak to Helen Whately, Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Conservative MP. Helen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to have you with us. I mean, let's just pick up on that story. This does cross over into the department you shadow, of course. 1 in 6 young people not in education, employment, or training. It's almost unimaginable you can't really picture what that amount of people looks like, how devastating it is for those people, how devastating it is for the growth of the growth of this country.
As you say, the figures are shocking. Nearly 1 million young people not in education, employment and training. It's bad for the country. It's also terrible for those individual young people who are stuck at home, not going out, getting a taste of work, getting a chance to earn a living. I talk to young people up and down the country as part of my work, and I've lost count of the number of young people I've spoken to who's told me about the demoralising experience they're having at the moment of applying literally for hundreds of jobs and getting hundreds of rejections. Rejections, actually, if they're lucky, often they just hear nothing. It's so hard to get a job as a young person at the moment. The government has commissioned this report by Alan Milburn today, which is out. I mean, one of the problems with that report, though, is it's a big diagnosis of the problem. It talks about the huge numbers. It doesn't have any solutions in it. And I look at this problem. We've got a government that's been in power already for nearly 2 years, and actually all they've done with their policies is make it harder for young people to get jobs. They've literally killed 300,000 jobs since they've been in government. They're going about it in completely the wrong way, and it's not fair on a whole generation of young people.
What is the answer to this then, Helen? Because, as far as I can tell, this is not about one problem. There's arguably a work ethic component to this. I don't say that to be deliberately critical of young people, but for some that will be an issue. There's mental health factors, we are constantly told, that are behind these stories. There are wage-based issues and what is reasonable to be paid for what you might call low-skilled job. All of this is all happening at the same time. Is there I can't imagine any government, if the Conservatives got in 2029, you're suddenly going to say, right, we're going to stop all benefits and assistance for anybody under the age of 25. So no one's going to do that. So what has to happen? What specifically can be put in place so that we don't read horrific headlines like this?
You're right, there's no silver bullet. There are things, for instance, like getting education more geared towards people getting into work, the vocational routes. Actually, for instance, on apprenticeships, we've already said we're committed to doubling the number of apprenticeship starts. That's one really good way for young people to get into work and gain their skills on the job. Reform of welfare is needed so that welfare isn't disincentivising people from work and actually that having people better off on welfare rather than in work. And the other thing is basically the supply of jobs. And you've got the situation where the government's policies, like the jobs tax, like the employment rights bill, loads more red tape on jobs, means that there are fewer jobs in our economy now. And if you're an employer and you're hiring, if you're lucky enough to be able to hire, and one thing's clearly less hiring going on, but those who are managing to hire, more likely to hire people with more experience rather than taking a risk on a young person who doesn't have experience. So that decline in jobs under Labour is really bad for young people. So things we've said we will do, well, we will back businesses to create jobs, reduce the taxes on businesses, particularly cutting business rates for smaller businesses, for hospitality, pubs and cafes. They're the ones who are telling me they really can't hire at the moment. Usually those are great entry-level jobs for young people, a chance to have an experience of work. And another area that then I'm working a lot on is the reform of welfare. For instance, stopping giving people sickness benefits for low-level mental health problems, things like anxiety, neurodiversity, ADHD, and actually supporting people who are struggling with their mental health into work rather than writing them off onto benefits.
We can speculate forever where the mental health crisis has come from. Some say social media. I know Alan Milburn's report does talk about social media. Is that what's responsible? Have expectations just changed? I mean, is it that? I mean, and does it depend on where you live, your background, etc.? These are all, I suppose, facets and factors.
There are lots of things going on behind this, and the pandemic definitely didn't help a generation of young people's mental health. At a stage at which they would have been out socialising and indeed, for instance, getting work experience or doing a part-time job in a pub, they were stuck at home. That's not going to have helped that generation at all. We shouldn't underestimate that. But one of the problems that we have is, I think, a generation of people who are almost being told, for instance, in education, oh, well, you've got this, you've got that, and this is a route onto benefits. And I have heard stories from young people, for instance, from somebody with an ADHD diagnosis at school being told by staff at school, like, this is what you do when you leave, you're going to go on to benefits. That is the wrong signposting. Instead, we should be saying to young people, yes, of course, you may well be struggling with your mental health. Yes, we have lots of people who are neurodiverse. That doesn't mean you can't and shouldn't work. In fact, you will be better off in work. Go and seize the opportunities from what you can do. But as I say, the other side of this coin has to be a good supply of jobs, and it's really hard to get a job at the moment. So we need a government that backs businesses, creates growth, and then you have the opportunities for young people too.
Just a final point, Helen. I don't want to spring this on you, but we've been having some fun with this a little bit this morning. The government have published a list of 125 everyday essentials, food essentials. It's quite a curious list because it includes things like chewing gum, which sort of surprised us. There's a lot of couscous and quinoa on there as well, which is not everybody's cup. I know you come from a nice middle-class family, and I'm sure avocados and couscous were fairly normal. I don't say that to be patronising, but I don't think the average shopping basket is full of couscous and quinoa and kumquats and goodness knows what else.
I don't think there's any couscous or quinoa in my house. It's more things like shreddies and Weetabix. I'm thinking as it's breakfast time. It sounds like a pretty odd list that you are describing. One of the problems I think we have is in the government's response to the cost of living situation, for instance, is the discussion that's been going on about whether they should be capping supermarket prices and essentially price fixing. I mean, we know that one thing that really doesn't work is for government to get intervened, to intervene in things like that. The answer is to bring down the costs that are being faced by supermarkets, by food production, for instance, through backing farmers, through backing businesses. Stop putting on red tape, stop putting on all those net zero and climate costs, and bring down the cost of energy. That's one of the big factors in this increasing cost. So it's back the food producers not get in their way?
It's interesting, isn't it, when we talked about this food, because we thought we could have some fun with the food as well, and we ended up dividing the list between left-wing food and right-wing food. And it appears there are definitely things that are distinct. I mean, some are positively Marxist, frankly. I know down there in Faversham, you would never experience anything like this, but, you know, the food fascists are out there somewhere, it seems.
I'm going to have to go and have a look at this list and see if I can see what
you should have a look at it. Well, I did say this to somebody a little earlier, Helen. My other half, she said to me when I said I was going to stop off at a coffee shop, she asked for a vanilla oat milk matcha latte. Firstly, that's too many words in one order, so that should be illegal to start with. Have you ever experienced the delights of a vanilla oat milk matcha latte?
No, I usually have a cup of tea in the morning, if I'm honest.
Well, even in Portcullis House, it'll cost you a fiver, I'm telling you. These things are not cheap. Listen, go on, Helen.
Oh, no, that was it. I was listening.
Oh, sorry. I thought I talked over you for one split second. Lovely to have you with us. Enjoy the day. The sun's going to shine. Helen Whately with us live from College Green. She's Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Lots to get through. On the Blair stuff, by the way, and his wider point is about politics and how it's not about party politics. It's not about left-wing, right-wing. It's about having an idea, a plan going forward. He makes the point that we're about to potentially have the 7th Prime Minister in 10 years. Even on that specific area, he says that's not a good thing to have that. You know, you need people that are in power with big ideas to implement it. He says the world is changing and we need to adapt to that, and we don't at the moment. So he's quite critical of his own party. Robert says, we're like a football team. No manager on the pitch, do not know which way to kick, nor what position to play in. That's a very good point. And Louise in Ipswich says, we need to remember that Blair obsessed about pushing huge numbers of unsuitable youngsters into university. 4 years later, useless degrees, huge debt, and looking for an entry-level job. Yeah, bang on. All of those factors are in on this one. What are we going to do in 5 years' time when 1 in 6 young people are not in work, not in education, not even doing any training? Where do we go with that? And presumably on some kind of welfare assistance as well. 0344 499 1000. You leave a voice note on that subject as well. This one, on this very point, comes from Steve. Morning, Steve.
This is Stephen Hartz. Peter was just saying about how Tony Blair imported all the Eastern European tradesmen, which has undermined our young people. I don't think that's anything like as important as the fact that young people are just allowed to sign on. That at 16, they could say, oh, I've got depression, or I've got a bad back, or I've got ADHD, whatever. And they could get more money on benefits for sitting about, doing nothing, and playing their computer games and smoking weed all day than they could if they went to work. That is deliberate. They've thrown our young people on the scrap heap so that they can say, we need to import thousands of Nigerians and Ghanaians into the care sector because young people are lazy. It's all on purpose. Anyway, that's my 2 pence worth. Have a great day, fellas.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royal tea from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This comes from Peter. Our subject about, or the story about the 125 essential foods. The government have come up with this kind of cracking list, which is a bit strange, to be honest. It's all about tariffs, but the idea that this is essential, everyday essentials, they're calling it, and the stuff on there that nobody would ever recognise as an everyday essential. But it's kind of divided out into now left-wing food and right-wing food, like sourdough bread, very left-wing food. It's very Corbyn-esque type stuff. It's also divided, and this is never popular in the 21st century, between boy food and girl food. And then we got into fry-ups as well. Now, Margaret in Edinburgh says a right-wing Scottish fry-up, a tatty scone, black pudding, sausages, bacon and fried egg. Might add half a fried tomato and mushrooms. You have forgotten something, Margaret, and I only ever had this in Edinburgh, strangely, and that's the clootie dumpling. Nobody in England knows what a clootie dumpling is, but it was absolutely, it came part of a fry. I can't remember what hotel I was staying in. No, I was in St Andrews. And it was just gorgeous, very sweet. It's got a sort of suet component. I think there's sort of currants going on in there as well. It was absolutely stunning. And Peter says, today you are wrong. People have always had fried potatoes on a fry-up. No, there's no space for, I don't mean literally, possibly literally. I don't want chips. I don't want waffles. Fried potatoes on a fry-up. No. The other thing that's missing from a lot of the recommendations of a fry-up, which is still pound for pound one of the best and possibly the most unhealthiest, and that's a fried slice. A fried slice with the egg on the top. I can go to a cafe and just ask for fried egg on a fried slice, 3 rashers of bacon, well done. And you only say well done because how many places just give it to you pink? But I don't know anyone who eats pink bacon, but it's served default in so many places. That'll do me nicely. I'm quite hungry now, having said all of this. And Peter says, what is it with people putting salad leaves on top of a pizza or on a fry-up in lefty restaurants? Yes, you don't want a sprig of spinach or whatever you'd call it sitting on the side of a fry-up. Like that's the healthy bit. Nothing healthy about a fry-up. It's just delicious, right? 0344 499 1000. We've got Adrian Mills with us, consumer expert, and a man who likes his grub. Adrian, I'm bound to say, I'm assuming that, you know all about restaurants, you know all about food.
Well, hearing you talk about those fry-ups, my wife used to run a chain of restaurants around West London that were called Fat Boys, and they were all greasy spoon cafes in the morning, and then during the day they would alternate and change into a Thai restaurant in the evening, so you were getting double whammy. And the funny thing was, she had to name it. She was thinking, look at who's in here. There was massive lorry drivers, there was big taxi drivers. She said, I can't call it Fat Man, but in Thai culture there is a little boy that's called the Fat Boy, and that's where the name Fat Boys came from.
There you go. I know a fella that's got a burger van called Fat Boys. I don't know whether he's nicked the name.
There's been 1 or 2 places that have nicked the name over time.
I bet there has.
We haven't franchised, don't you worry.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's interesting with food because the government have come up with this big old list of 125 everyday essentials, and there's stuff on here.
Get your gherkins in.
Yeah, you think Bob in Arbroath never ever put half this stuff in his supermarket trolley?
No. I've got the list just in front of me here, and I'm just looking at gherkins, aubergines, avocados, which I heard you mention earlier on, peppers, and I'm thinking, this is over. As my friend said when they heard this list yesterday, they said, these are the things I'd expect my yoga teacher to be putting in their basket. And I'm thinking, you are absolutely right. And when you get into, you know, the government are therefore also telling us last year that actually we're going to cut down on sugary things. We're going to tell kids, you know, to look after their teeth.
Yep.
So on that list, you've got toffee, you've got chocolate, you've got jam and chewing gum. What on earth? And of course, this whole thing about tariffs, well, it's also benefiting those people that are sending stuff from abroad. That's where the tariffs are being reduced. Yeah. I would have thought it would have been far better to concentrate on homegrown produce and the farmers that are really under the cosh. And there's so many other things. I mean, to be honest, I hear what they're doing, we see what they're doing, and we think, yeah, but it's just a little bit of tinkering, especially when you hear that gas and electricity prices are going to go up 13%.
Yeah. I mean, it does, you know, beg a belief that, and I can only imagine, you know, in government circles, you can almost see the picture, Adrian, that they said, oh, let's get Special Advisor Pandora to come up with the list. So she throws she throws in the with respect to anybody called Pandora, by the way, which happens to be a lovely name. And then Pandora says, well, we must put buckwheat on there, surely. That's a go-to. And then what she did, obviously, is thought, well, I better try and be a bit working class, so I'll stick chocolate and chewing gum on there as well,
and baked beans and soup. And of course, what you've got to remember as well is this is their list of everyday essentials. However, it will be down to each individual supermarket to reduce these prices, and I'm not quite sure how you do that, because, you know, we've said, oh, we're going to reduce the price of bread, but if you go to any supermarket, there's about 30 different loaves of bread, and one of them, and I'm sure you may have covered this the other week, one of the supermarkets was talking about dynamic pricing. That actually the price goes up when there's the greater demand. So what are you really going to be saving here? Perhaps a few pence, certainly not the pounds that people need.
Indeed. And you know, you do sort of wonder when it comes to this idea of, you know, whether it's cut price tickets to Alton Towers or certain pricing and essential foods, etc. I mean, government's brilliantly missed the boat. You know, this if you added it all up, you know, it's about £2.50 a year you might save on all of this stuff. People are 10, 12 grand short a year, not £2.50.
Absolutely. Well, I particularly like that publican last week who said that he looked at the future plans from the government, realising pubs were closing like 2 a day or something, and thought, right, hang on, if you're going to knock off VAT or reduce it to 5% for children's meals, so he turned his entire menu for adults into children's meals. So therefore, he was saying, I know, I'm going to be claiming 5% VAT as opposed to 20. There are so many things I think the government could do. I mean, it's very simple. Just look at council tax. I don't know anybody that hasn't gone, whoa, look at how that's gone up. Knock a few bob off that. Look at VAT on other things. Look at that gas and electricity. Concentrate on the big issues. And it just feels like this is almost like being patted on the head and go, we're really looking after you. And people are feeling genuine pain.
Yeah, absolutely right. When it comes to food, again, you know your way around a plate, and the cooking of, the preparing and the serving of it, etc. But let's just bring it down to brass tacks. The fry-up, the humble fry-up. Yeah. I've got a problem with, as you might have heard, with potatoes being included in a fry-up. I don't know how they managed to get a +1 with the sausage on that. I don't know what happened. But so what constitutes a fry-up, what you'd call a full English?
Well, it's interesting because the potato one, I've only ever really started to see over the last few years in hotels, you know, everything from sort of the Holiday Inn to your more marketplaces or whatever. No disrespect to the Holiday Inn. But what I can't abide are beans in like a little cup or whatever. No, put the beans on the plate. I don't need them in a little sort of dish or whatever. And also, there's one thing I can't stand, black pudding. Don't give me black pudding.
I'm not big on that. I could eat a tiny bit of it, but it's not me. Can I just pick up on the beans thing? Because you're absolutely right. But then sometimes the very reverse happens. I've been to the odd greasy spoon in my time when beans are dispensed as if it's gravy. And rather than a little portion on the side, somebody just shoves the whole lot over your breakfast. You think, don't do that.
Yeah. And you think, well, hang on a minute. You know, could you actually just put that in something else? Put it in a bowl. I'll have it as a soup. But you know, we're always told you shouldn't really eat a fry-up. It's not healthy for you. I really don't think once in a blue moon is actually very, very nice. You wouldn't want to do it. I mean, when I was an actor many years ago and toured for about 6 years, I think I had a fry-up every single day in bed and breakfasts. Yeah, it's ruined my cholesterol levels, I'm sure.
I do wonder, you know, when you go on holiday and they have those huge buffets in hotels in Spain or something, they go on for about a mile, these things. You walk your way down it. Or as Michael McIntyre always says, you know, what you go into those things, you sit down, you walk past the buffet, sit down at a table, then get up and walk back to the buffet for some bizarre piece of choreography. You go over there, and I always think, that's when you've got a free pass for a fry-up every day. But there's always somebody next to you complaining that there's not enough goji berries in the muesli. And you think, what are you doing eating goji berries? You're on holiday, mate. Have a fry-up. Whack a sausage down there.
And I can't be doing with fried eggs that have been sitting in one of those silver dishes for about an hour.
There's 100 of them.
Fresh. I have to just very quickly tell you, we went abroad last year, and I thought, I'll have a croissant. I thought we won't go fried. And there was a Russian guy in front of me wearing the usual Giorgio Armani shirt with it stamped all over. And there was this carved out wooden boat. And he lifted the entire boat up, walked to his table and put it on his table so his 2 kids and his wife could just pick one of the 100 croissants that were in there. And I'm thinking, now that's one way of doing it.
That is one way of doing it. Let's get a voice note on food, Adrian, while you're with us. This is about the divide of girl and boy food as well. Who would have thought it? This comes from Elle. Morning, Elle.
No, I must be a man then. I love meat. I went out with my husband once and he ordered a gammon, which was a normal size one, and I had a 32-ounce steak and I finished it. We did have to walk home, though, because I couldn't move afterwards. Any kind of meat. I don't like all this girls' stuff. I don't like avocado, and I don't like all this posh rubbish. I like meat.
I love it. Elle, thank you. A 32-ounce steak.
I can see the T-shirt now. I like meat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Listen, Adrian, great to have you with us as ever. Thank you, Adrian Mills, consumer expert, with us on the programme. Over to you on this story. We always try and throw in the lighter stuff. And you know what? The lighter stuff always goes nuts on the phones and the voice notes and everything. Essential food items. How to cook a fry-up. What goes with it, what doesn't. Is there such a thing as boy food and girl food? Left-wing food and right-wing food. I mean, you can definitely put... I mean, this one, Joanna in Salisbury says, left-wing food. My son-in-law's favourite, chipotle sauce. That's quite a left-wing. Upmarket Mexican ketchup and mayonnaise with spices for burgers. Yeah, just stick some ketchup in the thing, right? Or brown sauce. 0344 499 1000. That is how you get in touch with us. You can drop us a voice note there as well. Or you can message 87222.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And good morning. 0344 499 1000. That is where you'll find us. So much coming in here. Mark in Wigan says, essential food has to be tinned corned beef. I haven't had corned beef for ages. I did like it as a kid. Pointless left wing has to be the croissant. When you try to add jam or butter, it ends up mush with flakes of pastry all over the plate and down your lap. There is a way around that, by the way. And when with you on hash browns, you don't have spuds for breakfast. Thumbs up for porridge, though. Thank you, Mark, for that. The way around the croissant thing is to, if you have a croissant, is to heat it up in a microwave, not in the oven. And when I say heat it up in the microwave, 10 seconds. It will stop it going crispy. It'll become soft. And cut it in half first before you put it in the microwave. Give it 10 or 15 seconds. Add a bit of butter, maybe some jam if you want, and you don't have the flake nonsense. It does, I should add, as a caveat, depend on the kind of croissant you buy. Because I think you can buy ones that almost dine out on being very flaky. 0344 499 1000. What are we going to do about 1 in 6 young people not being in work or trading in the next 5 years? I mean, this is a grim... It's not just a bit of bad news. This is game-changing, unsustainable, and pretty horrific news for young people, but for the wider economy as well. Let's speak to Sergei Safai, who is the executive head teacher at St Thomas the Apostle School, with us now, regular on the programme. Sergei, good afternoon, or good morning to you, I should say. How are you, sir?
Morning, Ian. Not bad. Thank you very much.
Nice to have you with us. You know all about kids, you know about their development, you see their aspirations, you can see how that might have changed over the years. What is your assessment then as an educationalist as to what has gone wrong with young people?
Well, it's everything. Where do we want to start? Should we start with parenting? Should we start with parents that allow
Yeah, go for it.
You know, to sit on the settee, on their tablets all day? I learnt my work ethic from my parents. I'm sure you did too. Should we go to welfare state? Children aren't stupid. Youngsters aren't stupid. Why go to work for 5 days a week when you can be given money for sitting at home playing PlayStation or whatever? Should we talk about labels? You know, not building resilience by not talking to children the way they should be brought up.
Yeah.
Purpose. Why aren't we making sure children have purpose enough? Should we go to the universities and these Mickey Mouse courses that everyone's been told to go on when there's no job prospects at the end of it? I don't know where you want to start me, Ian. You know, we've been talking, sensible people, all right, have been talking about this in education for a long, long time. And there are simple answers to all of them if there were only the will to do it.
The disjoint, if you like, or the chasm between people who do what you do for a living and those that administer and run our lives, politicians and governments, seems to have got wider. So you're saying, Sergei, that the information is there, but the powers that be are not listening.
Well, if you take the label one, that always winds me up. You know, the idea when children fail, when we want to push them on a little bit, as I say, give them purpose in life, you know, we have a mad dash to find a label. You know, labels like naughty, lazy, they don't exist anymore, you know. So let's find a label that excuses poor behaviour. We've got a new one, actually, that came up last month. I can't tell you what I told the local authority, you know. But there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was you know, against the law. You know, and parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian. Which allows them to sit at home, again, I keep saying, you know, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, universities, I mean, let's go there. Now, Blair came in, I suppose, well-intentioned. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You know, and if they're going to university, racking up goodness knows how many thousands of pounds of debt, and it doesn't end up with a job. That in itself, hold on a minute, there's something going wrong here. You know, we can't do work experience anymore because of health and safety rubbish. You know, I can't get kids to try and find a bit of work that they might want to do. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life, which is what it has become.
So,
you know,
we've medicalised truancy.
Oh, absolutely you have, but for a long time.
Wow.
But we've also, we've legitimised, actually, crime, haven't we? Let's never let the children take responsibility. I'm banging the whole lot in here. You know, bang the whole lot in here. Let kids do something wrong and some idiot, I could have a better word, will find a reason why that child broke the law, and it's not their fault. It's mum's on drugs, dad's in prison, or whatever you want to do. But they never learn to take responsibility. And of course, I'm back to the welfare thing. Why bother getting a job? You know, and as for this talk of children living in poverty, please, they're not living in poverty if they're walking around with an iPhone and designer clothes.
Yep.
We know, we watch the news. You know, get rid of these terms that lower expectation levels, you know, that undermine the purpose. I've said that word several times. And it'll make children understand, if you want something, you know what, you're going to have to work for it. Yep. And actually contribute to the society that you're living in. And then we have enough money for those who really need it.
And that's that's a fair point. Let's have a listen then, Serge, while you're with us, to Tony Blair. He wrote this essay, of course, and has given an interview since he did it. This is his comments on the government's inability to solve the problems of the younger generation. Here he is.
By the end of this decade, if we don't stop this explosion in claims of working age people for incapacity disability benefit, we're going to have almost 5 million people, and the state's got to carry that cost. And if you look at where it's coming from, a large proportion of it is from mental health. And you know, you compare us now with other countries, it's not the same. So you've got to, if you're looking at the situation of the country in a rational way, you've got to come to terms with some of these problems, and you can't just hope that they solve themselves, or that you can carry on with this big cost on welfare at the same time as you're trying to prioritize investment in education, in infrastructure, and of course in defense.
I mean, he's right on that point, Serge, isn't he? I mean, one could possibly point the finger at him as being partly responsible for some of it in the first place. The huge amount of kids that get sent to university that would have been unthinkable years ago, that didn't really need to go, etc. The mental health issue. And his upshot there is that it's simply not sustainable going forward.
You can't argue with that. And I would agree totally with that, what he said there.
Yeah.
You know, but once again, once you leave things open to opinion, what is disability, for goodness sake? I think I'd recognise what disability is, not being able to work. But don't tell me if you've got a watery eye and you feel a bit depressed in the morning because you've had a bad night. You know, you've suddenly got a mental disability. And then let's chuck in the medical side, where everyone gets signed off for everything. And especially these subjective disabilities, stroke, illnesses. And actually, you know, I don't understand why they teach doctors these days. We all know that actually going to work, having a bit of purpose in your life, getting a nice wage packet at the end of the month, makes you feel good. You know,
it really does. Of course,
yeah. Let's sign everybody off for everything. I don't know what it's like in your industry, but I can tell you now, it's getting worse and worse in education. And you can't argue. You can't say, excuse me, I disagree with the fact that watery eye means you've got to take a day off school, because then you get labelled with, goodness knows, yet another label, i.e., well, you're a bully, you're this, you don't understand, you don't know what I have to cope with every day. Poor lovey. Get off your backside, get in school, because kids need teaching. But it starts much earlier than that with young children, you know, and modelling from their parents. You know, a simple example that drives me nuts. I take the dogs out in the morning now that I'm semi-retired, you know, at the same time that we had the school run. You know, we've got 4-year-olds sitting in prams being pushed. Even when they take the scooters, the kids sit on the scooters and the parents push them. You know,
what's all that about?
What's going on there? But it's about, you know, we've abdicated our responsibility in bringing up children properly. I think you've heard me say that before. And the answers are there, but no one's got the political will to do anything about it. In case they get labelled and don't get votes, I think they should take a chance, because I think most people, sensible people, would go for it.
So there is a huge, as you said at the beginning, a huge parental aspect to this.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you the positive, though, on this. When you talk to kids at your own school and have done over the years, I mean, there are still diligent, ambitious, responsible children out there, right? There are those that really want to learn, and they want to apply that post-school into getting a job and a career ultimately.
Yeah, best part of the job. Best part of the job by a million miles. People like to put down teaching. I've done it for 47 years. You know, keep me away from stupid adults, you know, but kids, given the chance, brought up properly, they will always come to the fore. They'll always be the odd one, but the vast majority want to do the right thing. You know, they do want to contribute. They want to find a job that they're going to enjoy and do well. And they do like money. You know, they do like money. But there's a lot of things in there that take away from that experience. Phones, for instance. Look at how many years have we been babbling on about phones. I took my phones away 20 years ago. I knew what was going to happen, and so would most normal people. But of course, it's an issue. It's an issue. Let's get it talked. Let's see how many votes this might bring. So instead of thinking, let's put the kids first, we had the same during COVID. Instead of putting the kids first, it's all, let's look beyond.
Yep.
And these politicians, what is it going to do for me? And, you know, I'm fed up with them. I don't know what to do with our political class. I really don't. But is it ignorance? Is it incompetence? I think it's just indifference.
Well,
they don't care.
but also they want quick, easy answers rather than a philosophy that underpins what they're doing. I mean, have you got a full phone ban in your school? Is that how it works?
Oh, we collect them in the morning because parents want to know where their little darlings are all the time, as if we haven't got a phone in the school like we used to have. Collect them in the morning and give them back in the evening.
Yeah.
All right. And you know, amazing. You should see what break times are like. Guess what? Kids play basketball and they talk to each other.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about being stolen or anything like that. And they're very comfortable with it. But God forbid any parent should just take that on board.
Yeah.
And the schools, we have quite a few schools visiting us. Highly successful, you know, an all-boys school near Peckham, for goodness sake. We're not supposed to get these results, and we've got great kids. And they say, "Oh, we've banned phones too." I said, "Have you collected them in?" "Oh, no, we just banned them." I said, "Well, just think of your naughtiest kid with your weakest teacher.
Yeah.
Are you really serious? They're not texting each other under the table."
Absolutely right. Listen, Sergey, on that point, great to have you on. Always good, outspoken, honest stuff from Sergey Safai, Executive Head Teacher at St Thomas the Apostles School. Thank you to him. Let's get a voice note on the lighter subject of food. This comes from Dan. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Ian. It's Dan from Kent. Stating the obvious here, but this essential food list, most of it isn't essential, and most of it is imported into the country. So why isn't the government or some civil servant who put this list together thinking, why don't we promote British farming? Why don't we have the essentials on there that our own farmers produce? But don't worry, keep the list, because no doubt Jamie Oliver and Bake Off will be filming within the next few weeks of what to do with your dried figs. I don't know, make some vol au vent, and we'll all be happy as Larry coming home to a hearty dinner of dried fruit. Great show.
Good morning to you. This is Tour de Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Burgess. Breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk 0344 499 1000. Yeah, morning. Welcome back. 3 minutes after 8 o'clock. Ian Collins in for Jezza. He's back on Monday here on Talk Breakfast. Loads together. We're talking about that harrowing, horrifying, whatever you want to slice it, story of 1 in 6 young people will not be in education, employment or training within 5 years unless urgent action is taken. This is about as serious as it gets. It's part of the Milburn report. There's a lot to tuck into on this. So very simple. What is the answer to this? Have we just medicalised life to the point where everyone's got an ism or a problem? Our last guest, head teacher of a school, was saying that now truancy has been medicalised. Little Jimmy, he didn't go to school because he can't face it. That's not a thing. It's not an ism. It's not a condition. You just don't want to go to school. Two different things. Thoughts on that and what is the answer? Elsewhere, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham is hitting back at Tony Blair for saying that, and says Blair does not know what's going on in modern working class Britain. Well, his essay wasn't really majoring on that specific point, but yeah. Also, birth rates plummeting. Brits aren't breeding like they used to. What do we do about that one? The local council that splashed out £2.4 million on what is being called Britain's first cycle road. Not a cycle lane, a whole road dedicated to bikes. Cycles and pedestrians have priority. Cars can whistle and just wait it out until it's their turn. This is madness. Some would say it's an illness. Taxpayers, money, vanity projects. Tell me about the cycle lane nonsense in your neck of the woods. Nothing wrong with them, by the way, if they're used fully. The sheer cost of them is off the scale. And as we have been, dominating proceedings here this morning, the government has released a list of what they call essential food items. As you might expect, someone didn't get the memo about what working people actually stick in their shopping basket. The list includes couscous, avocados, green tea, quinoa and tropical fruit. All the stuff you very rarely buy. It's made the big list of 125. We're looking for your favourites as well. 0344 499 1000. Rach in Newcastle says, morning Ian, because we divided food up, by the way, between... this happened accidentally. Left-wing food and right-wing food. So sourdough bread, avocados, very left-wing. We then got into male and female, girl-only food and boy-only, or favoured mostly by girls or boys. And Rach in Newcastle has gone further. The north-south divide on food. Don't forget northern food, peas pudding, and southern food, jellied eels. Do you know what? You could not get me to eat a jellied eel if you came at me with a harpoon and the hump. I'm telling you, there's not a chance. Not a chance. I don't know how it ever became a thing. It can only have been a joke one day. Someone was too embarrassed to call it out, and it stayed. Peas pudding, I've never really known what that is. It's not peas, is it? As in peas. I'm sure I'm going to get a flurry now of people telling me. Back to the issue with the government. Kevin East Kirby says, does this government not realise we haven't all got a Waitrose on our doorstep? It's a fair point. This one from Richard in Northampton. Does it ever occur to the work-shy that the current benefit system is unsustainable? What will they do if and when they have to get a job? Well, you do kind of rather wonder whether at some point it will be as blunt as that, because it's all unsustainable. John Rentoul is chief political commentator at The Independent. John, morning to you.
Good morning, Ian.
Now, listen, you've been round the political block and the journalist block for decades, so you see stories come and go, and, you know, once in a while they're revisited 10 years later.
You say I'm old?
No, not at all. I say that merely to highlight your length of experience rather than your age. And your wisdom, of course. We are in curious times, aren't we, when it comes to the welfare budget. I mean, there's many ways to look at this story of 1 in 6 kids not being in work in 5 years' time. There's obviously the kids themselves. What's behind that? Is it a fear of work? Is it a mental health issue? You can look at all of those good reasons. But the upshot, and Blair makes the point in his essay, is that it's simply not sustainable. You can't carry on like that. There'll be quite literally no money to pay for it.
No, that's right. And that's what Alan Milburn is expected to say today. I mean, as you say, all roads lead back to Tony Blair today, because, I mean, that 5,000-word essay is full of experience and wisdom. And Tony Blair is a bit, he's 73. Mind you, well, I mean, Winston Churchill was 76 when he came back as Prime Minister in
forget
51.
about that.
So there's hope yet. But no, I mean, the point about this problem of youth unemployment, I mean, Tony Blair deals with it in his essay. There are two things that need to be done. One is to reduce the burden on employers. The employment rights legislation was well-intentioned, but will have the effect of making it harder for people to take on youngsters, take on any employees, but especially young people looking for their first job, perhaps. It's a risk for an employer. And they don't want to be burdened with all sorts of complicated and expensive rights when they take on someone. It's not in the interest of the young people themselves. They want employers to take a risk on them, and that's how you get a buoyant labour market. At the moment, we're pricing young people out of work with the minimum wage. And these burdens on employers, and then we need welfare reform, because, as you say, there are lots of young people who are signing off long-term sick and then never coming back to the labour market.
I mean, it's more than just a blip of a problem, isn't it? I mean, this is just seismic. I mean, it doesn't get any more concern other than wars in Iran and goodness knows where else. In terms of big problems coming, I mean, they're already here, but they're coming down the track at a rapid rate of knots with booster rockets attached.
Yeah, well, I haven't looked back at the figures, but I mean, youth unemployment has been a problem in the past.
True.
And it goes up and down, and at the moment it's going up, and but from a much too higher base. I mean, there are already far too many young people out of work, I mean, in a way, you could say it was one of the failures of the Blair government. I mean, long ago, was to get to grips with this problem, and it hasn't been sorted out since. It's a good thing that Alan Milburn is now looking at it, but a lot of this government's policies are heading in the wrong direction.
They are heading in the wrong direction, and one of the points that Blair picked up on yesterday, of course, in that essay, was that we seem to have governments that are lacking a kind of core philosophy, a big idea, and he made the point that, if Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister, that's 7 Prime Ministers in, 10 years or something, and that is ridiculous. We used to laugh at Italy, didn't we, over things like that. That was always the big gag, it's 12 o'clock, Italy must have changed their Prime Minister by now. And of course, here we are, about to go into our 7th Prime Minister in a decade. That doesn't give any scope or chance.
In Italy, Giorgia Meloni has been Prime Minister for several years now.
Exactly, yes. They are arguably one of the most stable in terms of European countries for keeping their leader. And we have this merry-go-round, and Blair was making the point that it's not even about left-wing, right-wing, Labour or Conservative. This is about having ideas, putting policy, not politics, at the top of the list, and that's what he claims is lacking.
Absolutely, and he made the very sensible point, which is it's no use getting rid of Keir Starmer, however useless you think he is, unless you've got a good idea of what you want to replace him with in terms of policy, not personality. I mean, it's all very well getting someone in a bit more charismatic or a better communicator in, but unless you get the policy right, and what's gone wrong with this government, I think, and I think that's what Tony Blair's arguing in his essay, is that it's got the policies wrong, and it's been pushed around by the soft left Labour MPs whose response to any social problem is to spend more and tax more.
Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be, I mean, we had this announcement, I know this is not quite connected specifically to this story, but it all sort of feeds into cost of living. Rachel Reeves saying, you'll get a discount on your Alton Towers trip, and, the buses will be free for some of the kids. Now, to quote the Tesco slogan, every little helps and all the rest of it. But these things don't touch the sides. I mean, they're a bit gimmicky.
Well, they're very gimmicky.
And it needs fundamental change.
No, but I mean, she's just trying to subsidise taxpayers with their own money. I mean, it's just a merry-go-round. I mean, she says it's being funded by some sort of complicated tax change on international oil and gas companies. But I mean, the point is, if she can raise that money from international oil and gas companies, she ought to be putting it into tax cuts or paying off the borrowing instead of these gimmicky schemes where she's giving it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, and there seems to be an awful lot of that going on at the moment. Again, if somebody said to you, what is Starmerism? I appreciate the ism bit usually comes after somebody has been in office. Nobody talked about Thatcherism or Blairism when they were in power as such. But, Keir Starmer came in, and we keep making this point. We made it a few times this week, John. I think even those of us that do this for a living thought in 2024 that Starmer, there was going to be a sort of Blair Brown moment when they came in and they would unleash this 100-day agenda where all manner of things were about to happen. I think their first big announcement was to take winter fuel payments away from old people. And it went steadily downhill from there. There was no plan. Their only plan was, we ain't the Tories.
Absolutely, and we could see that coming. I mean, there were people like me saying that before the election that Labour's plans didn't add up and they were going to have to put taxes up.
Yep.
And lo and behold, they did. And of course, people were very upset because they said they weren't going to. So obviously that caused immense problems. But as you say, they did. I mean, they might have got away with that if they'd had a plan, if there had been some kind of idea of what they were going to do in government. But instead, they, last year when Keir Starmer tried to restrain the increase in the disability benefits bill, I mean, he wasn't trying to cut the disability benefits spending. He was trying to have it increase more slowly. And Labour MPs wouldn't let him do that. Yeah. And I think when he rolled over and gave in to that was the end of it. Because if you cannot control that kind of unjustified spending, then you need to hand over to somebody who can.
So Alan Milburn does this report. I don't know how he was hired, whether he was given a six-figure salary to come up with this. Good luck to him and all the rest of it, whatever. But my point here, John, is that it was clearly significant to commission it. His findings have been quite revealing. We've sort of had a trickle out over the course of the week from social media to this story as well. The big question then becomes, what does the government do about it? Because the smart money says not a lot, because you get these reports and they'll pitch up on the telly and the radio and talk to people like us and say, well, yeah, this is terrible. We are trying to do X, Y, and Z. And then nothing fundamentally changes.
No, but I mean, as you said, Ian, I mean, this is something that they should have had a plan for when they came in 2 years ago. It's no use 2 years in saying, oh, this is a bit of a problem, isn't it? Youth unemployment. Never heard of that before. Let's get Alan Milburn to make some suggestions. I mean, the other disappointing thing about this is that Alan Milburn was, and I think he still is, the lead non-executive director of the Department of Health, and he was advising on NHS reform. And he is the guy who actually, as health secretary, made the NHS the best it's ever been in its history. By the time we got to 2010, by the time the Cameron government came in, the NHS was better than it's ever been. Waiting lists were right down, and patient satisfaction was incredibly high. Now, if Alan Milburn could have focused on that, turning the NHS round, then that would have been a good thing. But instead, they got him to go and look at another problem. Instead of solving these problems, they just get these old people who actually ran the government and successfully in the new Labour years. They get them to sort of produce these reports 2 years in, and it's so frustrating and depressing.
Yeah. On the wider point, how long do you give Keir Starmer? Will he be Prime Minister at Christmas?
Well, I think that all depends on whether Andy Burnham's going to win this by-election. I was initially very doubtful that he would, but Nigel Farage's outfit seemed determined to hand it over to him. So maybe Andy Burnham will descend from the north, triumphant, carried on the shoulders of his supporters into Westminster, and I think Keir Starmer will be gone fairly quickly after that.
Yeah, because there is and I don't know whether there's any mechanism for this, because I'm pretty sure the conversation that Keir Starmer would have with Andy Burnham, if Andy Burnham becomes MP, would be, come on, Andy, give us another year, mate. I don't imagine Andy Burnham would do that, would he? But is there a mechanism that somehow Starmer can stay on?
Well, no, there is. I mean, he could try to do what Tony Blair did, which is set a date for his departure some time in the future. But I think, Tony Blair did have a bit of capital in the bank, and had been Prime Minister for a long time. True. Whereas I think if there is a feeling in the Labour Party that Keir Starmer's time is up, I think the feeling will be that he ought to go and go quickly. I mean, he's no longer fully in control of the Labour National Executive, which will be setting the timetable for any contest. And I think that's the crucial point.
Indeed. John, great to see you. Thank you for coming on with us as ever. He is John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent. Thank you to him. A reminder, the Makerfield by-election, June the 18th. These are the candidates standing. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer, the Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, also Independent, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. Lots of comments coming through on what we do and where we go. Gary says, there are 3 measures the government could immediately take to help with youth unemployment. Firstly, stop allowing anyone to come into this country who is under the age of 35 unless they are taking a job that pays at least £100,000. That will force more businesses to train our own youngsters. Now, that would mean that... So I've worked with, my previous producer was a Kiwi. This is another place. She wouldn't have been allowed to work. That was when the Theresa May's threshold was, I think it was about 30,000, wasn't it? Or somewhere of that order. It would also mean that Neha, who's our vision mixer, who's from India, and I'll come back to Neha because she doesn't escape untouched this morning, I can tell you. Now, she's Indian, speaks English better than most English people I know, and is currently having, I'm not kidding you, 3 hash browns for breakfast. There's no pongal or masala chai going on, I'm telling you. This is full English she's having. Now, I don't know whether a vision mixer job pays £100,000 a year. I'm going to take a guess that it's probably a little bit under that. So we'd have to say goodbye to Neha on that basis, and that would be a tragedy because she's kind of part of the team, even if she does steal people's breakfasts every now and again. Gary also goes on to say, secondly, create a work ethic by making unemployed youngsters work for their benefits, doing all those jobs that don't currently get done because the state doesn't have the money to do them, like picking up litter, cleaning beaches, painting park railings, anything to get them into the work ethic. I get that. Thirdly, cut the minimum wage for under 21-year-olds. When it was introduced in 1999, the minimum wage was less than a third of the average wage. Now it's half of that. It's pricing young people out of the workplace. And on that point, cracking one here, doesn't say who it's from. The need to abolish the apprentice minimum wage. As a one-man band, I simply cannot afford a £16,000 a year apprentice that is essentially a liability for me. 25 years ago, I was on 30 quid a week and everyone had an apprentice. Now, nobody I know in the trade has an apprentice because it's too expensive. So they've tried to do it again. And, the last government, did a bit of this, but this one's got a PhD in it. They think, the Rayner mentality, we've got to make sure everybody gets paid the same money, even if you're like 12 or something. I'm half expecting Rayner to announce, if she got back into power, that people who deliver paper boys on people who deliver papers on a paper round should be on 20 grand a year because that's only fair. They don't know because they don't experience the way it works, and that's that you do stuff sometimes for nothing. I worked for nothing a lot getting into this industry, a long time working for absolutely naff all. And then gradually you go, well, if you're confident about what you're doing, you will find a way of making it happen. You'll take another job somewhere else to supplement what you're not getting paid for. You'll do all you can. It'll be rough. You won't worry about big nights out. You won't go on holiday. But you do that for a couple of years. You won't be saving loads of money, but you'll be saving your sanity and your self-respect, because eventually, suddenly you see the light and you go, right, there's a job opportunity that's come up. I think I'll go there. Suddenly you are getting paid. Yeah, you went through the... It's not meant to be an instant set of achievements from the word go, both in your pay, your conditions, or anything else. So that last text, it's a shame it doesn't say who it's from, but it's absolutely bang on about apprentices. 0344 499 1000. We'll also talk about food. Food has become very dominant this morning on the list. Let's get left-wing food versus right-wing food was one of the topics. Here's a voice note. It comes from Matt. Morning, Matt.
Hi, Ian. It's Matt in Wallington loading a van. Any left-wing food, well, wasabi's got to be there. Cod cheeks definitely has got to be in there. I've never seen a cheek on a cod, but I reckon the lefties are like that. And basically, anything on the menu on MasterChef, because that's the most left-wing show I've ever seen in my life. So if you want to go to a Labour dinner party, go and watch MasterChef.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
26 minutes after 8 o'clock, Ian Collins in for Jezza. He's back, of course, on Talk Breakfast on Monday. John in Bury, we're mixing up a lot of subjects here. Where food, because of this new government list of 125 everyday essentials, it does have some fairly imaginative, slight, so what you might call posh nosh added on there. Not the kind of stuff that you normally lob in your food basket. John says the reason the country is in a mess is because the lefties are not eating brain and muscle food. They need to get some tripe and dripping butties down their neck, and they might start thinking straight. So we've got left-wing and right-wing divide on the food department, male-female divide in the food department, the north-south divide on the food department as well. We'll continue to take your calls on that. Steve in Nottingham says, when I worked down the pit canteen was brilliant. I can remember a deputy who regularly had a breakfast after the night shift. He would ask the canteen lady he wanted his fried egg spunky. His nickname became Spunky Egg after that. Okay, it's fine. This from Sue. Regarding these out-of-work kids, it is simple. They need to be conditioned that if they haven't got a job, they will sweep the streets and other activities for the common good so that they will earn the benefits. You could call it wages. Says Stuart in High Wycombe. A couple of people have made that very point. Is it too much to ask if someone is going to be permanently out of work, which is what these stats are telling us? The other story that caught our interest this morning was that babies born to migrant families has reached 40% of all UK births. Fertility rates are plummeting to record lows. That 40%, in some areas, it's as high as 84%. We'll talk to David Shipley in just a moment, the investigative journalist who specialises in immigration. Firstly, Norman Baker, former Home Office Minister. Morning to you, Norman.
Morning, Ian.
I don't know if you've managed a full English yet before we speak.
Well, I've had a cup of tea and a croissant, so that's not left wing or right wing. I think it's probably liberal in the middle.
Which works perfectly for you. Listen, Norman, this story, we see these stories every now and again. Babies born to migrant families reaches 40% of all UK births. On the face of it, people's reaction to that would vary. It'd be, wow, that's interesting. Some people might say that. Some would say, so what? Others would say, Houston, we have a problem, a demographic problem. What do you say, Norman?
Well, we have a problem in the sense that the Western countries generally have a problem in that the birth rate is declining. And we've actually seen a reduction to an average of, I think it's 1.39 babies per couple, which is below the replacement rate of 2.1. This is not unique to Britain. It's happening across the Western world, and indeed in China. There's a major problem in China. And I think it's partly, looking over a very long period of time, that in the old days, people felt they had to have children because they wanted some security in their old age. Nowadays, in the Western countries, of course, we have a pension system, and that necessity for having children to look after you is no longer there. So we are seeing that decline. And that is worrying in the sense that the replacement rate is not being met.
It's not being met, no, and there is many issues perhaps behind that in terms of the sort of changing demographics of a country. Now, this bit interests me because it's always a tricky conversation to have without somebody going, well, what's wrong with if people look a bit different? And fundamentally, intellectually, you say, well, there is nothing wrong, but there's also nothing wrong with, saying, a country is able to be proud of its ancestry, its lineage, its ethnicity, and many countries around the world would fly that flag with real pride. In fact, I can imagine if you were talking about if you were watching a documentary, Norman, and there was a tribal people somewhere in an island off South America, and they were being subjugated by another population. People will be setting up crowdfunders so these people can retain their identity. You can see the left wing will be jumping at their TV saying this is outrageous. But for some reason we seem rather relaxed about it. Is ethnic side a tricky conversation, I know, but is it reasonable to be concerned about it?
Well, it's important to notice the demographic changes and to note whether or not those who are giving birth and grow up in this country share British values and accommodate themselves properly into society. And most migrants, I think, do. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Ian, that part of the reason for the percentage increase is because I think migrant population is growing, but also the if you want to call it the ethnic British population is not replicating itself, and therefore the percentage is going up by default, as it were. As I say, it's a problem elsewhere. If you look at what happened in Poland, there was a determination from the Prime Minister to try to encourage people to have more children. Well, that didn't really happen. You can't force people to have children. They don't want to have children, and that's part of the issue. Just the definition of migrant, by the way, is when one parent out of two or more, but one parent only necessarily was born outside the UK. And of course, that allows us to include people from America, from France, or any other EU country as well. Although predominantly the largest country in terms of migrants producing in this country is from India. And of course, that reflects partially the so-called Boris wave in 2023, when he invited huge numbers into the country.
Yes, and of course, the list of different ethnicities and nationalities on that list is massive. It's varied from white Europeans to Africans to Indians, Pakistanis. I mean, it's right across the board.
Yes. I mean, as I say, my interest in this is making sure that people who are in this country share British values, believe in democracy, respect the rule of law, and don't try to impose their values unfairly on other people. And I think the majority of people in this country, whether they were born here or whether they weren't, respect that point of view. And the challenge is to make sure that those who don't respect it are dealt with appropriately.
What is happening with, there's another element as well which involves immigration, and that is this figure as well, Norman. 27 young migrants are hired for every British youngster due to sort of the worklessness issue. Fueled by soaring non-EU immigration. So we're talking here about non-EU foreign workers. 27 are hired for every one Brit.
Well, I think this comes back to the other conversation you were having, Ian, about young people claiming benefits and not working and feeling perhaps, I don't know, detached from society in some shape or form. I think people who do come here probably have a better work ethic than those who were born here. That's a controversial statement to make, but it seems to me to be borne out by those figures. If they want to get on, they want to work hard, they want to earn money, maybe to send back to their own countries or their parents in their own countries. That's not necessarily replicated by people who are growing up here.
Norman, lovely to have you on. Thank you for your time as ever. That's Norman Baker, former Home Office Minister on that. So let's get a word from David Shipley, investigative journalist specialising in immigration. And morning to you, David. I said that to Norman, it's always a bit of a tricky conversation when you mention ethnicity and backgrounds and cultures and birth rates and all the rest of it, because it doesn't take much for one of those left-wing meerkats to pop their head up and go, oh, hello, what are you really saying? And you might not be really saying anything other than, is there any need to apologise for saying, I quite like to protect my country's ethnicity? Is that reasonable?
It's entirely reasonable. I think I'd like to walk through why that is the case. First of all, I would address what Norman just said, though. He was talking about the idea that people can integrate with British values. I'm afraid that's an outdated and now disproven idea. The government itself this year published an integration strategy where the Prime Minister said we're suffering an integration emergency, that there are migrant communities living parallel lives and social trust is fraying. Those are the government's own words. So that model has failed. And what we have instead created by mass migration is parallel communities which to a great extent, do not interact with one another. They employ within their own groups, they socialise in their own groups. So we aren't integrating. What we are doing is bringing in large, substantial other communities which are insular. And the outcome of that is not good and is not going to be good. Mass migration had no democratic consent. It's been voted against for decades. And we are now starting to see the great harm that's being done by it. And it matters because, we, the nation-forming native peoples of these isles, the Welsh, the Scots, the English, and then the Northern Irish, this is our land. This is where we came from. We have been peoples in this land for over 1,000 years. The English existed 1,500 years ago. And we were talking about foreign births. If you actually look at the data, only 53% of births are now from white British people. So that's almost the rate where the majority of births are not from white British people. And what that will mean, in conjunction with the 250,000 Brits who are leaving every year and the 800,000 people who are coming here every year, is that very quickly we're going to see a population churn to the extent that the white British will become a minority in our homeland. And the reason that matters is because, put aside all this stuff about values and integration, a general rule of human history and human behaviour is that people have strong in-group preference, and generally population groups will look after their in-group. So if we become a minority, we will ultimately be in a situation where we can't govern, can't actually govern our own country, and we can't act in our own group interests in our homeland. We don't have another homeland we can go to. This is our land.
Well, often the response to that, because I've had so many of these debates, David, and again, the caveat is that, I know it can be tricky because you have to kind of navigate your way around terminology and phrases and examples, which some people, for peculiar reasons perhaps, are uncomfortable with. And I gave the analogy to Norman there that, if you were watching a documentary about a group of non-white people who are being subjugated by white people in another country, you'd have the left-wing intelligentsia, starting a crowdfunder to stop it happening. It's outrageous. These people should have their culture. But when it sort of happens here, that same intensity of concern is kind of shouted down.
Yeah, and I think, you may believe that people who make those arguments from the left are sincere. I'm not sure I do. I think often they are motivated simply by animus. against Western civilization, against white people. I don't think it's sincere. I don't think you could be necessarily persuaded in that way. But I think the fundamental issue is it is not in the interests of the nation-forming peoples of these islands to become minorities. It would ultimately be against the interests of us, our children, our grandchildren. And we're starting to see part of that now. The hiring ratio, part of that is being driven by the fact that these migrants will often work much longer hours than, say, a young kid who's still doing their A-levels or at uni and just wants a few hours a week. So employers have a bias towards flexibility. But also increasingly, a lot of these young people jobs, let's say, these more casual jobs in shops, in hospitality environments, often you're seeing that they are, if you look in shops, they're often staffed by one ethnic group, and that's because people will tend to hire people like them, unobserved. And so, there's a sort of strong preference for migrant communities to hire more of their own people. You see this in data around organizations and companies which are approved to sponsor visas. A surprising number of companies sponsor people to come here when you wouldn't think they would need to, and that can presumably only be because they are, bringing over their sort of co-ethnics and relatives. So that behaviour, that tendency to act in the interests of the in-group, is just a part of human nature. It's how most people act. And generally speaking, I would say Western educated liberals are unusual, and we don't tend to think in that way, or haven't historically. And so the result is, if we continue with this kind of migration flow and these strategies which drive up foreign-born birth rates and suppress native birth rates, we are going to create a really difficult and negative situation for our descendants.
Indeed. It's a disturbing and clearly a complicated picture to navigate. This story is not going away, I know that much. David, thank you for your time. David Shipley, investigative journalist specialising in immigration. You get into cultural assimilation, you can bring religion into it. What happens if, as you move through the decades, you have a religion that is suddenly 25% of the population? A religion that has cultural considerations as well as anything else. What does that do to the fabric, the legislation, the politics of our country? And is there anything wrong with raising that question and then being concerned about it? 0344 499 1000. More from you on the way. We've been talking about food as well. Oh, and by the way, I'm grateful. I don't know how this happened this morning. Richie says quinoa is pronounced quinoa. Great show. Now, I don't know, I've had this morning a pronunciation tick. I've never, ever pronounced quinoa until today. And now I can't stop saying it. I don't know why. It's like each time my muscle memory goes quinoa. It is, of course, quinoa, which is on the... Because it's written like it's quinoa, that's why. Strange. So thank you to Richie and others for that. Let's get a voice note on left-wing food. This comes from Jane. Morning, Jane.
Morning, Ian. Left-wing food. Turmeric Tai Chi tea. And yes, it is a thing. I've seen it on a board. And also anything from Waitrose, basically.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, good morning. Welcome back. Home of Common Sense. Mark in Selby says kippers. No. Fair. This one from Mike. Morning in. Potatoes on an English breakfast are an American import. Just like obesity. True Englishmen have fried bread. Bang on. Oh, I do like a fried slice. I know it's probably the kind of entry route to some kind of cancer, but it tastes very, very nice. This from Betty. Morning in. How many families or parents also on benefits for the increased numbers? Seems to be a family business these days. I can still remember when I was a kid that even as I'm saying those words, I'm seeing the houses. 1, 2, 3, I can think of 4 houses, all within walking distance. I mean, literally, down the road from where I lived, where no one ever worked in it. And there were generations, because there was also like cousins and brothers that would turn up at the house as well. And they wouldn't go to work. They were always in the pub, that I remember that much. Some of them, for some reason, sat in the front garden in deck chairs in the summer, not in the back garden. Never quite worked. And it was always the front garden that's got half a Ford Escort and a dead Labrador in it. One of those kind of front gardens. And grass, like, over your shoulders. It was curious. But yeah, you can see those families. That's literally, there's no ethic. Imagine growing up and your mum or your dad or your granddad or nan never said anything about, having a little bit of get up and go about things. Yeah, if you work hard, son, you'll do well. That being completely absent from any conversation for the entirety of your young life. And then you sort of scratch your head and wonder why things have gone pear-shaped. Maybe that's partly why we are where we are. And here's another blight on the landscape of British life. Junior doctors have announced another 4-day strike. What, another one? Yeah, 4-day strike in June, stating that the new Health Secretary, James Murray, is unwilling to move and cave into their demands. Okay, we forget West Streeting no longer does that job. James Murray is the man. The British Medical Association will walk out from 7 a.m. on June the 15th until 7 a.m. on June the 19th as they pursue a 26% pay rise. Let's speak with Dr. Lawrence Buckman, GP, former chair of the BMA's GPs Committee. Lawrence, good morning to you. Good to see you. Obvious question to start with. Have these junior doctors got a point?
They have a point, but they're pursuing it in a way that I find rather strange. If you keep banging your head on a wall and it doesn't fall over, maybe you should stop banging your head on the wall and try something else. And they don't seem to have reached the point, nor have the government for that matter, reached the point of being able to do that.
They must know that. I mean, somebody in their committee must keep saying, look, we keep doing this strike thing. Nothing's happened. Streeting gave us nothing. He cited previous pay rises. There is a little bit in the pot, but it doesn't reach anything like 26%. But they do seem rather immovable on that specific figure.
Yes, I wouldn't be tied up with the amount. I would be concentrating on the things around the side. In other words, conditions rather than terms. And there is so much that's wrong with the NHS and so much that junior doctors need to have done. And I would be concentrating on that. And to be fair, the new Secretary of State, who I don't know, he's made a noise that sounds like he'd be interested in talking about conditions. And those have a value too, not as a sum of cash on the table, but they certainly have a position. And the junior doctors have a point. There is a problem. But I think just giving them more money won't make them less tired.
Yeah, it's interesting that the chair of the BMA's Resident Doctors Committee, Dr. Jack Fletcher, said we'd hoped a change of leadership in the health department would have made a difference. But he says, sadly, we've run up against the same unwillingness to move that we encountered under Mr. Streeting. I mean, it's quite naive, is it not, Lawrence, for anyone to think that that decision would fall to the specific Secretary of State for Health, when ultimately it's a Treasury decision and, more than that, a prime ministerial one.
Yeah, this is all about Treasury. Remember, this new Secretary of State came from the Treasury.
Yeah.
The Treasury runs a parallel system to the rest of the society. So there's a Treasury unit for health, a Treasury unit, I'm guessing, for education and defence and all the rest of it. And these are the people that really run what goes on, because they decide how much money they're going to give to the individual departments. And here's an example where the Treasury has said, no more money. Well, okay, then you've got to start thinking a bit more originally than just beating each other over the head with a stick, because neither side can lose face. And it seems to me that the way forward is to negotiate, not to walk out of negotiating, but to actually sit there with the other side and say, okay, you don't want to give us money. What can we do instead that has a value to BMA members, for example, or indeed all junior doctors? And what is that? And I think there's an awful lot that can be done to improve the conditions that junior doctors work on. That doesn't have a pound note attached to it.
How much? You're right, and of course pensions are often discussed as well, about deferring payment to put it into a pension pot. Does that cut the ice at all with the medical world? Yes,
that would make a significant difference. Pension money, which is payment, because of the way doctors are paid, and pension, it actually is payment deferred. So I don't get it now, but I will get it when I retire. And that system has been around for a very long time. Everybody understands it. And putting money into pensions is not giving them the pay rise, but it is enabling them to build up a bigger pot for later on. And I think that's completely reasonable as a factor, not the solution.
Sure.
A factor in the deal.
So given that these are kind of perpetual deja vu moments with these strikes, is there any, are you hearing anything? Is the word on the medical street telling you, Lawrence, that there is something over the horizon that could see an end to this, or are we likely to play out this same strike 4 days off charade again?
I think both sides need to step back from hitting each other and just think, what can we get out of this? How can we do a deal which doesn't look like more money up front, which will upset the Treasury? And there are various things that need doing, and they could do those, but they have to be willing to do that. It can't be seen as a continuing us versus them battle, whichever way around. The civil servants who work with the Secretary of State are the same people, so they haven't changed, so their attitudes won't change. And whatever the Secretary of State is, the Treasury are still going to be leaning very hard on this. So somebody should think laterally and not keep on going with both sides attacking each other verbally, which seems to me to be utterly pointless, and nothing is going to get solved this way.
On that point, Lawrence, thank you. Dr. Lawrence Buckman, GP, former chair of the BMA's GP committee. Where does this story end? Will it ever end? I think we all understand the brilliance of good clinicians and doctors and the like, and nobody's disputing that. But all of us are a bit fatigued, I think, by this thing now. It will cost patient care, if not patient lives. There's no doubt about that. You can't stop work for 4 days and for nothing to happen. Let's go back to a lighter, more palatable subject, quite literally, and that of food. I love this one. Well, firstly, this from George in Sussex says, my father always soaked his bread in milk before frying the bread. It gives a crispy brown outside and a nice soggy middle. You can also claim that the milk counteracts the frying fat. That's right. Yeah, you're having calcium via the conduit of a fried slice. And this in from Mark. I mean, this could have been a whole subject in itself. How much attention do you pay to the sell-by date? Mark says, about 3 years ago, I found a tin of toast toppers from 1998. Now, 1998 is 27 years ago. So 3 years ago, it was still 24 years old. It was the classic ham and cheese, Mark says. I went for it. Brackets, I was single. That is a factor. It was delicious. Get your out-of-date tins from the dark corner of the cupboards to save a bit of cash. So it was well out of date by 25 years. 25 years. Would you open a tin of... I only just about remember toast toppers. But yes, the ham and cheese, that does now ring a bell. I don't think as kids I don't know why my mum didn't get that. They'd have been ideal for us. Would you go for that 25 years? I don't like, stuff that's, a month old in a tin. I'm a bit suspicious of it, just in case. More so the fresh food. Like, if you've got a pepper in your fridge, you can just give it a good old squeeze, have a little fumble, and you know straight away whether that thing is crinkled and knackered and ready for the bin. But as for the tin stuff, man alive, that was brave. Isn't it interesting? What the hell is in it for it to last that long? And Mark's still with us with no ill effects, as far as we know. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, welcome back. It is the... I've got caught on the bacon sarnie thing again. It's funny, many of you have mentioned the fact that everybody is now starving because we've been talking about food. Apologies. I should have chewed that a bit more before I swallowed it. Didn't have a choice, frankly. Yeah, a lot of you are a little upset because we're talking about food and fry-ups and bacon sarnies and sausages and all the great stuff. And you're driving and starving, or just woken up and can't be bothered to cook all of that. Coming up on 5 to 9, let's get some sports news.
90 minutes in 90 seconds.
From the Sun.
Joining us now, we've got Jack Rosser, football reporter with The Sun. Morning, Jack.
Morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to have you with us. Big signing news, 70 million quid's worth, going in the direction of Barcelona. Who is it and where are they coming from?
It's Anthony Gordon. It's a bit of a surprise to everyone, really. There's been a lot of interest. We've known that he wanted to leave Newcastle this summer, but no one really thought Barcelona had this sort of money. No one really thought they were a serious contender for him. It looked like he was going to join Harry Kane at Bayern Munich. But what a day if you're Anthony Gordon. He's not featured in the last 6 games in the Premier League, and now he's waking up on his way to Barcelona, hoping to have it all wrapped up before he flies off to the World Cup with England on Monday. So
yeah, I know.
Quite a good week if you're Anthony Gordon.
Well, yeah, absolutely great week. Ka-ching and trebles all round, really. I mean, this was a guy that a lot of Newcastle fans thought, is this young, talented winger. He's going to do the business for us. And as you say, didn't really turn it in as expected. And now Barcelona have seen something clearly that Newcastle didn't.
Well, yeah, he's had a funny season, really. He scored 10 goals in the Champions League, although 4 of them came against Karabag, a very small side from Azerbaijan. I think he's only got 6 in the Premier League all year. He was sort of having to play here and there across the forward line with Newcastle's strikers not doing too well. It's not been a barnstorming brilliant season from him, but he's a very, very talented player. And you look at some of those that have gone away from the Premier League and into Europe and how they've flourished. I've already mentioned Kane. Look at Michael Olise. Marcus Rashford has a very good season at Barcelona, and this could obviously have a knock-on in terms of his future, though it sounds like they might want to try and have both Gordon and Rashford, so they'll be competing for the same spot in the Barcelona team and the England team.
Indeed. Big night for Palace last night. A nice win for the club. It was only 1-0, but it's convincing enough to walk away with some silverware.
A historic night for them. Their first ever European campaign comes with their first ever European trophy, and there'll be a bit of a sense of vindication at Crystal Palace. They were obviously booted out of the Europa League last season. They qualified for that by winning their first ever major trophy, the FA Cup, last summer. Then they were knocked out because of a whole load of UEFA bureaucracy and their old owner, John Textor, owning multiple clubs. He's cleared off, and they've kicked on, really. And what a way to end for Oliver Glasner. He's won them 3 trophies in 2.5 years, and now he's going to be heading off with another one over his shoulder.
Indeed. As a Chelsea fan, sad to read this headline. Fernandes possibly wants to leave Chelsea. Everybody's favourite Argentinian number 8 is on manoeuvres. What's going on here, Liam, and how confirmed or not is this?
Are you too sad? He's been a bit of a disruptive presence, hasn't he? He's a very, very expensive signing, and he's shown flashes, but I don't think he's ever quite shown that he's a £110 million midfielder, and he spent more time moaning about what's happened at Chelsea this season than trying to fix it, really.
Indeed, but I don't know whether there was something about having the Argentinian boot on the grass at Stamford Bridge that I'm just sort of taken in by, given the kind of wild and varied history of that country. Maybe it was that, but you're absolutely right. He's been a bit of a thorn for some, and not every player is necessarily a big mate of Enzo.
No, and he's definitely caused problems, but somebody's going to have to cough up 120 million to take him out, so you'll probably get to keep your favourite Argentinian around. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he'll go to Bayern Munich and kick around there as there's a vacancy. Listen, Jack, great to see you. Jack Rosser, he is, of course, sports reporter, football reporter with The Sun. Thank you to him. We're going to get some news headlines back with more from you in a couple of moments. 0344 499 1000. It's 9 o'clock.
My fellow Americans, let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing.
Due to that suit being pressurised.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk Breakfast. Yeah, morning. So much to get through in the final hour of the breakfast show. Ian Collins sitting in for Jeremy. He's back on Monday here at the home of Common Sense. One of the big stories dominating the news today is this headline. We seem to be seeing this kind of in varying forms quite a lot lately. 1 in 6 young people will not be in education, employment or training within 5 years unless urgent action is taken. What has gone wrong here? Is it parental? Is it about a sort of lethargy that kids are experiencing in ways previous generations never did? Is it the bleakness of the job market, the lack of ambition? Is it mental health? Is it all of those things? What we do know is that try and picture 1 in 6 young people. That's an awful lot of individuals. And the welfare system, even Tony Blair makes this point in that essay that he wrote, I mean, it's simply not sustainable. It's not a notional construct. It's not a kind of a theoretical possibility. It's literal. It's not sustainable. We are in real trouble. Elsewhere, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has hit back at Tony Blair, saying Blair doesn't know what's going on in modern working class communities. It's become Andy Burnham's thing now. He's got to bring class into every conversation that he has. Blair wasn't really majoring in on inequalities and class. He was talking mostly about the philosophical, or the lack of a philosophical direction of governments, and governments thinking big and outside the box of just 5 years, having a big idea. Also this, the local council who splashed out 2.4 million quid on what is being called Britain's first cycle road. Not a cycle lane, it's a whole road handed over to two wheels and pedestrians. They have priority, while cars can just whistle and sit it out until it might be their turn. Tell me about the cycle lane madness in your neck of the woods. They're all over the place. 0344 499 1000. And we're also talking about food, because the government has published a list of what they call 125 essential everyday items that will see lower prices due to planned tariff cuts. So they're cutting the tariff on all sorts of things. Is it everyday stuff? If I were to mention fonio, or is it fonio? If I were to mention buckwheat, or even aubergines for that matter. Does Bob in Arbroath really lob that into his little basket when he's mooching around Tesco? I do wonder. Zarina says, morning Ian, my daughter is an academic. Her choice of university matters because she wants to achieve. Top universities mean a huge price tag, but to fulfil her academic ability, it must be sought and paid for. Blair introduced Uni for All. However, he also created a 2 or 3 tier form of universities at the cost of tradespeople. Whilst I support inclusion, university is not for all. The balance between trades and academic achievement has to be redressed to meet the needs of the country and all young people. We've kind of moved away from common sense into the one-size-fits-all. Well, if you go to university, loads of people I work with around here, there was never any doubt they were going to. It wasn't even a discussion point. They might not be going to university. And does this sound bad? And I base this on a couple of mates whose kids have done very well and didn't go to university. But my eldest is 12. And if he said to me in 4 to 6 years' time, I don't want to go to university, assuming he had another plan, I would be incredibly supportive of that. Financially, somewhat of a relief. Isabel Oakeshott is Talk's international editor. Morning to you, Isabel. You've got that coming. You've got that conversation coming 3 ways at you fairly soon, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that conversation has actually happened quite a long time ago with my nearly 19-year-old who knew from some years ago that he just wasn't interested in going to university. And I'm kind of relaxed about that because what he is interested in is developing new businesses. He wants to be an entrepreneur and he's very much teaching himself. You know, he says to me, Mum, don't even bother talking to anyone over the age of 25 about AI because they just don't have a clue. You know, he's been on top of what's going on with AI from the moment it kind of ChatGPT became a thing, and you know, he kind of mocks me for using ChatGPT when there are so many other ways of doing things. My point is that if you are ambitious and you're hungry and you're motivated, in fact, the internet and AI in particular makes it quite possible to build your own opportunities in ways that weren't available to my generation, you know, to parents. I wouldn't have been able to leave school at 18 and build my own business in the way that he envisages doing. And it's so unattractive to a lot of young people who don't particularly have a vocation in mind. They don't want to be a lawyer. They don't want to be a doctor. They're not interested in becoming forensic accountants. Yeah. Why would you want to run up 50, 60,000 pounds of debt? Yep. You know, then you enter an uncertain job market. one thing we were talking about yesterday, Tony Blair's intervention, very rightly flagging up how AI is revolutionising the job market. You're looking at young people today, they're looking at going to university, emerging with enormous sums of money that they have to repay, and an absolutely terrifyingly shrinking job market in these traditional professions.
It's interesting. The most shocking takeaway from everything you've just said there is that your lad is now 19. I think when I first met you, he was 9. So that gives you a kind of clue how fast time flies, of course. And it's interesting. Somebody here says, Kev says, can nobody see that tech and AI is taking all the jobs? I mean, and again, it comes back to what Blair was saying. I think the UK is reasonably placed in the AI league table. Again, I'm over 25, so maybe your son can shine some light on that. I know that America and China...
I don't think we are at all. I don't think we are at all. I don't know one. Well, certainly not, in political terms. Who's talking about this? Blair is absolutely right about this. It should be front and centre of our economic strategy. I mean, here in the UAE, AI is at the centre of everything. They're trying to use it. They don't always get it right. No country does. But they're really trying to embrace it and be at the forefront and have these great big international kind of expos on this sort of stuff. I don't feel the UK is really.
I think it's about we have the capability of the brains to do it, but nobody's doing anything about it. There's no government initiative. I mean, I remember reading a book, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something on this point of AI, about how, and the point that was made is that it's not like, when the internet first came along, people said, oh, the internet is going to take jobs. And it didn't take jobs. It created millions of jobs around the world. And about a decade ago, when the conversation of AI was very loosely discussed, people started saying the same thing. It's going to create loads of... But actually, it isn't. This really isn't going to be like the internet. It's going to dramatically change everything about business and commerce, the way we do business, the way we function, the kind of businesses we need, and more profoundly, the kind of businesses we no longer need. So for a government to not be on top of something as fundamental as that is frankly criminal.
It's actually both incredibly exciting and incredibly worrying. So I feel like I've been a bit late to sort of try to embrace it. But in the last few months, I really have done. And I have used AI to replace a number of different professionals that I would previously have had to spend a lot of money on. So to do, for example, basic legal advice, it's fantastic for that. I don't need to hire a lawyer for a number of things. To do interior design, it's incredible what you can generate yourself. If you've got a bit of time, you play around with various AI platforms, you can actually change the way your house looks. These are just two little examples in my own life. And again, in things like your interactions with councils, if you've got an issue on planning, you want to find out where things stand on that. What it does is reduce, for many people, it reduces their need to hire at low levels. It reduces your need to hire people. It's incredible for therapy. Who knew? Again, I'm not having therapy, just to be clear, but I know that it's very, very good for that. So I find it incredibly exciting, but it will change things. I think hopefully it can create as many opportunities as it's removing. But we've got to recognise that it is fundamentally changing the landscape for our school leavers. I've got 2 teenage girls, and when we're thinking about what careers they might want, I'm saying, look, we've got to think how many of these opportunities are actually going to exist in the shape or form that we at the moment know them. And the answer is it will change.
It will change. And I always make this point, which is either a terrifying one or an exciting one, similarly to, as you just described. But in the world of AI, this is week 1. And that's the bit that we've got to get our head around.
Absolutely. And stuff takes seconds. You ask it I'm afraid to say it's pretty good at writing. This probably won't come as news to anyone under the age of 25, but if you want it to generate a news story that previously a junior reporter would have had to sit and toil over, it will give it a few facts, and it will generate that news story in a matter of seconds. So all of this, it's like the Industrial Revolution in terms of its magnitude, as Blair said.
Indeed, I did design a front garden from AI. It wasn't massively ambitious. It didn't need to be. Took a couple of goes. I reckon in total, my time was probably about 15 minutes. I printed it off, gave it to the chap doing it. I said, "Can you recreate that?" He said, "Yes." And there it is now in all its lovely glory, with a rather dry lawn, but that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. It's not faultless. It's not faultless. It doesn't take into account certain things. We all know that. But the more you play with it, the more you push it, the more you experiment. Even things like, can you turn this mass of names and numbers into an Excel spreadsheet? I hate Excel spreadsheets. Never really wanted to get my head around doing them. It will do that in seconds. So those sorts of administrative jobs are all going to be under threat.
My 12-year-old sat down and worked out a revision timetable, not the timetable itself, a revision timetable. And it was just amazing to sit there at the kitchen top and just, he put in the subjects, what days he's got them, what is beneficial for him, what he needs to focus more on. He said, gave that the instruction, out it came, and then he just put the next instruction, can you colour code this for me? So it put all the different subjects in different colours. I mean, it happened and I was looking at it thinking, being quite an OCD character, when I was a kid, that's the sort of thing I would have made. I'd have sat in my bedroom with a ruler and a protractor, and I would have colour-coded it myself, and it would have taken me days probably to produce this thing. Then I might have laminated it after. He had this whole thing done and dusted in about 4 minutes. I mean, it was arguably, in AI terms, the simplest of instructions.
And what platform was he using? What tool was he using for that? Was it Claude?
No, that was ChatGPT. Claude is very good as well. Claude is great at graphs and images and things like that. It doesn't do photos, I think, Claude, but
I don't know. But what I would encourage our listeners, if you were like me, like 6 months ago, I just hadn't really I knew it was a possibility. I knew there were things that I could be saving time on, but I just hadn't really got to grips with it. Yeah. It honestly is so life-changing. And if you don't know how to do it, literally it's just sort of download ChatGPT, decide whether you want to pay for a fancy version, and then ask it how it works. Here's the other thing it does, Ian, that I've found, again, so useful. When you've got a tech problem with your laptop or with your phone or whatever, ask it, and it will talk you through what might be happening. Again, saving you getting in an IT consultant.
It's incredible for that kind of stuff. And I know that there's people now that essentially use it like they use Google. And I know that's not meant to be the application for it, but it's really, if you like, somebody described it to me rather simply quite recently. It's like it's an internet search engine with booster rockets. I mean, it's got the ability. When people say, why are they building all those big data centers? That's why, in order to produce this data. The possibility was always there. The speed was the bit that was missing.
I think the other thing that's fascinating, and there will be ways that you can stop it doing this, I kind of both like it and I'm terrified by it, is that if you use a particular one frequently, let's just say for the sake of example, ChatGPT, it remembers what you were talking about or asking it several months ago. And I'm finding the more I use it, the more its responses are tailored to me. So, at no point have I told it, hello, I'm this and that, and here are all my challenges in life and so on. But it piecemeal, it's putting it all together, and I will put something in, a question, let's say for the sake of example, can I have a gold wedding cake? I'm just making this up, not an actual gold wedding cake. And it will say, Well, recalling your background as this, and recalling
Yes.
that your wedding reception is in this sort of venue, and I'm like, well, when did I tell you that? But I sort of know that I have done at some point. It puts it all together, it profiles you, and then tailors the responses.
Well.
Now, that creates some really very significant privacy issues. I'm sure there are ways of stopping it doing that. I actually rather like it doing that, but there will be so much information on individuals as a result of what kind of searches they're doing, in the privacy of their own homes.
So are you telling us that AI is planning your wedding with Richard? Is that what you're telling us, Isabel?
Kind of is, actually. I could even show you some images of the cake.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope I'm at least at the reception to witness some of it and have a little taste.
Well, it's amazing what it can do, and it can, refine where can you get certain supplies of things, and it's maybe it can replace a wedding planner.
Yeah, well, it will find you a Toby Carvery for the reception quicker than you could think.
You've got me all wrong. Ian. I was thinking Wetherspoons because that is a big,
They're always
reform
big venues. They're always big venues. They never lack space. You could stage a bullfight in a Wetherspoons and still have space. I mean, they're massive.
You know what? If there's a bullfight at our wedding reception, that you are giving me all sorts of ideas here. Why aren't we having a bullfight?
People are always thinking of more imaginative ways to do weddings, aren't they? And yeah, I think a bullfight might be a curious turn of events to turn up at a family wedding. Just this story which took our interest as well, Isabel. Transgender taxpayers have been given a lifetime access to an HMRC hotline that is usually only reserved for MPs and members of the royal family. It's a special tax service known as Public Department 1, PD1. It provides a dedicated phone line for high-profile taxpayers, answers calls typically twice as fast as those made to the ordinary tax office. I think HMRC cite privacy concerns, but if you're transgender, you've got a special super fast way to talk to the taxman. What's that all about?
I don't know. Should we try it? I mean, what evidence do you have to give in order to use this hotline?
Yeah.
I mean, can you just ring up and I could say, hi, my name is Robert, and I would like this fast track treatment, please. Will that work? Or do you have to provide a certificate or what? And why? Why?
Why? Yes. I think if you're asked to provide evidence, then that's a breach of your human rights. So there would be no evidence, one assumes. You can just say whatever you are, Bob.
It's really very... Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Iona. It's just a bit... I don't quite get why you would have any kind of special tax need if you gender identify in a different way.
Why do MPs need a special hotline? I mean, is that...
Well, I can kind of understand that. So I'm not saying they should have one, but I could understand why there would be one, because their taxpayers come under special scrutiny, don't they? I
guess so.
Yeah, perhaps it's a good thing for public servants to be able to get through to someone at HMRC quicker if there's been an error with their tax form, or they feel they're owed money by HMRC, whatever. I don't know. But I can sort of see it in the case of MPs. I can see that. And also because of the privacy thing, we all know, I in particular, but also anyone in public life knows, how high stakes it is when they're anything to do with HMRC.
Very finally as well, we've been talking about food this morning, the government's 125 everyday essential list of stuff that clearly we should all be dipping into at some stage in our lives. I mean, it's curious because they've got things like chewing gum on this list. I have no idea why, but then they've also got buckwheat, not even sure I know what that is, on the list as well, along with something called Fonio. Are you familiar?
No, because I was talking about this to one of the other presenters yesterday. I can't remember. Mark Dolan. I was like, "What is that? What is it?"
Fonio is cultivated grass, apparently, not the smoking variety, the eating variety.
That's never on my shopping list. I'm sorry to admit, I've never even seen that offered in Tesco.
No, I've never seen it, and nobody refers to their lawn as their Fonio, do they? So.
It's all sounding a bit strange at this point.
It's all a bit weird, but I don't know whether they want to make the country more affordable. But of course, government's ideas of making things more affordable to take £2 off the roller coaster at Alton Towers, which doesn't really touch the sides when we want, goes back to the Blair thinking, really. A fundamental big picture plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Blair intervention is really interesting, as is the Alan Milburn intervention today. So Alan Milburn is a former health secretary, Labour health secretary, very close to Blair. So fascinating to have these two interventions around the same time. And what he's saying about the scale of worklessness amongst young people is, again, really, really concerning. I suppose it links to what we were talking about earlier. I mean, our joblessness crisis amongst very young people is actually worse than Greece, France, or Spain, which is pretty shameful, really. And Alan Milburn is talking about, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's saying, the scale of the problem we've got with the welfare system is so enormous that tinkering around the edges just isn't going to be an option. Piecemeal change is not going to cut it. Yeah. And essentially, he's acknowledging that the welfare system is exacerbating inactivity. Well, I mean, we could have told him that. It didn't need to spend months researching to come up with that. But that's the bottom line. It is because it is an option to be without work that so many people are without work. I'm not saying we shouldn't have any safety net, but when the safety net becomes too comfortable and too readily available, then people don't have to try hard enough. That is just sheer human nature. It's amazing when you go to third world countries, and so many of our listeners will have seen this, places where there isn't a welfare state. My God, it makes you entrepreneurial. Even if you're in India and it's just people just shining shoes on the street for a few rupees, because that's the only option. They've got to get industrious because no one else is paying for their lives.
And particularly when you have high population countries, as you just mentioned as well, the necessity is, I guess, increased. Listen, Isabel, thank you for your time. Enjoy the day. Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor, with us on the programme. Back to food. Oh, this one from Richard in Gloucester says, good morning, Ian. Canned food can last ages. Back in the 1970s, when I was in the army on exercise, we were given compo rations. The tins contained everything from matches, sweets, toilet roll, etc. There were bars of chocolate with totally different labels to the ones on sale at the time. Even cigarettes came in tins. The good old Woodbine again, with a totally different packaging from probably 30 years before. We used to joke that everything was packed from World War I, and it made you wonder just how old the stuff was. Possibly some of it was from World War I or II. You're right, it is beautifully, it's an incredible, if you think about the engineering concerned with packaging foodstuff in tins and the removal of air, it's phenomenal. And it does a job, in terms of preserving. But of course, not everything lasts forever, because we've all opened a wonky tin and thought, that doesn't smell quite right. But would you open a tin of pilchards 35 years after the sell-by date? 0344 499 1000. Let's get a voice note on food, left-wing food in particular. This is from Liam. Morning, Liam.
Morning, Ian. I've just been to Greggs this morning for a lovely sausage and bacon with brown sauce sandwich and a latte. And I've just looked over the back of the counter there, and it says, meet your matcha. They're actually doing matcha coffees now. So Greggs are turning left-wing, unfortunately. Liam from Newcastle.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Yeah, morning. Ian Collins in for Jeremy Kyle. Back on Monday, right here at the home of Common Sense. This one in from Roger in Chichester. Junior doctors striking is political, not financial, driven by the left-wing BMA who want power from disruption. Yeah, the BMA is a very politicised outfit. It's not talked about enough, but when the NHS back in the 40s was being talked about and decided upon, the Conservatives first came up with it. Henry Willink was the Tory health minister at the time. Came up with a white paper, but of course it was Labour that happened to be in power. They were all in agreement that we're going to have this. The one body that disagreed with an NHS was the BMA. They fought tooth and nail against this thing. They were arguing our members will be slave labour in these. They're doing all right, charging poor people God knows what. So we don't want this pesky NHS coming along. They were quite evangelical and political about it then. And as Roger identifies, I don't think their politics have changed since. Now, Keir Starmer is under pressure from ministers to rethink North Sea oil drilling. If you ever think you've seen a headline from a sitcom, you think, hang on, he's having to rethink so the oil that we have, like literally over there, not in Russia, over there, they're having a rethink about it. How very sensible for them. Chris Morrison, environment editor at the Daily Sceptic, is with us. Morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Ian.
I mean, it's sort of beyond satire now, isn't it? That they're having, we've got all this oil. Do we use it? Do we use it? Do we not use it? It's like telling a group of people in a famine, there's some food over there. Do you want to taste it or do you not want to taste it? I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I'd been listening to the programme a little bit before I came on, looking at the food shop. I have to disagree with you on croissants, for instance. A French croissant should explode. It should be lots of crumbs, all sorts of things. It's the delight. And the idea of putting it into a microwave and making it all soggy, well, I'm afraid no.
Well, I tell you what, there is still, I'm going to defend the microwavable croissant here slightly, Chris, only because it is, if you left it in there for 30 seconds, you would end up with something that's as flat as a pancake and it would be no use. But if you give it 10 seconds, it's just enough to warm it up, but to remove the crispy. Now, my other half, she loves a crispy, flaky croissant. And the kitchen looks like an explosion in a bakery after you've chomped into one of those.
Well, it's the price of doing business, I'm afraid. You just have to accept that. But if we go back to energy, of course, you wouldn't have Ed Miliband eating a croissant if he's out on the campaign trail. I agree on that.
No, he sticks to bacon sandwiches, doesn't he?
Yes, he's not very good on food, is he? But,
indeed.
But looking at what is happening in the cabinet, I think reality is dawning all over government. We obviously had Tony Blair speaking yesterday about the sort of stupidity of net zero, and they've worked out that the amount of they're losing Aberdeen as a port, the place is being hollowed out. The unions are getting on their back because there aren't any real green jobs. They're just sort of rebadged or in some cases invented. Most of the production is occurring in China, and they've worked out that we need our own secure supply of oil and gas. Again, the Straits of Hormuz has shown what happens. This is a dress rehearsal for net zero. It shows what happens when you remove 20% of oil and gas, and it has concentrated the mines. If you the arguments, why are you not drilling gas when you're just taking it from a neighbour? But it's the damage that cascades through the economy, the wrecking ball of net zero, the true wrecking ball, the fact that refineries close down, that you're losing Aberdeen as a thriving city and port on fertilizers, because the energy is driven so high by this net zero renewable madness, you're losing fertilizer plants. And we now find out that 40% of the urea, which is an important part of fertilizers, which have doubled food yields in the last 60 years, and we use extensively in this country, 40% of it is now locked up in the Strait of Hormuz. Go figure on that. So reality, along with Blair, reality is dawning. They're realizing the amount of money that they're losing by not being able to tax it, the jobs that are being lost. And as I say, reality is dawning all over.
What about the sort of, I'm tempted to say the sort of left-wing argument, but the environmental argument, the sort of Dale Vince argument is that the North Sea is, in fact, I don't even think he's advocating closing the North Sea off, but more of a sort of Chinese model where you use what you've got. And one day it might run out, could be 30 years away, could be 300 years away, but while it's there, use it. You're not going to fundamentally change the makeup of the planet by not using it. So I tend to agree with that. But I think the argument that seems to come from the environmentalists is, among other things, is that there's not enough of it. We've got all the good stuff out, and to drill as deep as we'd have to drill now is a vastly expensive endeavour. What's the truth of that, Chris?
Well, I mean, they exaggerate it completely. They've been saying there's no gas under our feet. They've been saying that there's limited gas in the North Sea. No, there's tons of the stuff, and there's certainly enough for decades into the future. It's become slightly harder because we've taken out the easy stuff that was more or less lying just below the surface. But drilling techniques are improving all the time. And that is why fracking has taken off. Fracking was 20 years ago was a little bit difficult, expensive. The techniques improve, and America is just producing its gas, more gas than they can consume just by taking it from the land. Gas is everywhere. The more we look, the more we find. It's all over the sea, under the ocean, on the land. And the Greens hate this because they realised 10 years ago, which is why they moved to ban fracking on land, they realised that there was a ton of the stuff and that their particular dreams of removing hydrocarbons from a modern economy were just never going to be realistic. So take with a pinch of salt what they're saying on this.
Yeah. Net zero adds £1 billion to our bills, says one report this morning. Tell us something we didn't know.
Yes, quite. I saw this story. We're talking about Dale Vince, once of this parish. I like to quote the statistic there. He runs Ecotricity. It's 76 wind farms, onshore wind farms. Over the last 20 years, he has received £145 billion of subsidies. He likes to call it, it says they're not subsidies, but everybody else calls them subsidies. And for that, he produces at the moment 0.06% of our electricity to the grid. I mean, if you think that's a good bargain, it's a great bargain for Dale Vince. He's a great entrepreneur. He worked out that you could put these windmills up all over the place and get, it was no risk really.
Well, he says, of course, as you rightly say, and he's not here to defend himself, that he doesn't get any subsidies and nothing has favoured him personally in that respect.
Yes, I know. No, well, he might not. Well, he owns 100% of Ecotricity, so he would benefit through that. No, he calls them something else, but they are subsidies, and the subsidies in fact amount to £15 billion a year that the electricity consumers in this country pay, and that makes it some of the highest price electricity in the world. And of course, they go on about gas. The gas price accounts for 25% of the retail price. There's 75% in non-consumable items, and that is the 15 billion. That is the price of keeping the whole show on the road, trying to run, if you like, a modern economy on intermittent power.
Yeah.
And they've realised this. They've realised that in the middle of winter, you can have 2 weeks without the wind blowing. The sun goes down at 4 o'clock just when you need the most power to keep warm and heat our houses. They've realised that it's totally impractical. You need a gas supply. Sometimes during these wind droughts, you need up to 70% gas, and you will continue to do that. And it obviously makes sense for us to get it out of the ground rather than rely on foreigners. And the reality is slowly dawning. Can I just make one point again?
Please do, Chris.
Reality is slowly dawning about the science, because even Blair is saying, he turned around yesterday, he was talking, he's saying, I'm not a climate denier, whatever that means. I mean, I don't know how you can deny a statistical trend, but anyway, I'm not a climate denier, he says. But over the last 15 years, every single scare story, I would argue, almost every single scare story that you've seen about the Gulf Stream closing, about the Arctic sea ice going, all this sort of thing, relied on something called RCP 8.5. These were a set of assumptions that people loaded into computers, completely unrealistic assumptions like population would grow to 12 billion, we'd use more coal than our reserves. But there have been 45,000 science papers written using these assumptions. The Met Office projections is all based on it. And the United Nations, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has just turned around and said it's implausible. They're implausible. Everything you've read in the mainstream media about all the scares are junk.
And the reference point is the very same Bible that on any other day of the week Ed Miliband would have pointed to prop up his sort of wonky data, and even then vastly misinterpreting, because they're sort of worst case scenarios, which they fully acknowledge in much of their reporting. They're now saying this. I wonder what Mr. Miliband will do with that information, but don't hold your breath. Chris, great to have you on with us. Thank you. Chris Morrison, Environment Editor at The Daily Sceptic. Bit of timely breaking news. We've been talking about how by the end of this decade, in the next 5 years, 1 in 6 young people will be out of work. The latest numbers are out for what the current state of play is, and that's the number of not in employment, education, training, increased to a post-pandemic high of over 1 million in the 3 months from January to March, according to the Office for National Statistics. There are 1 million young people currently not in employment, education or training. What the hell is happening to this country? Thoughts on that as well. 0344 499 1000. We're also talking food as well. We'll take a voice note that in a... Oh, did we do the last voice note? Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I don't know. Maybe we didn't. We'll do one next. Oh, Matt, have we got Max now? Should we do Max now? Let's do it. It's on food, isn't it? We've had a lot on food today. Morning, Max.
Good morning, Ian. It's Max from West Oxfordshire here. On the subject of left-wing and right-wing food, I have to say that lactose-free milk is so left-wing it's untrue. Why on earth would you drink it? You may as well drink red bottled topped milk. It's like drinking water. There's just no taste to it at all. So I don't know why you would bother with that. And then in terms of right-wing food, mushy peas have to definitely be on top of the agenda for that one. The mind boggles. Great show, mate. Keep up the good work.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Yeah, welcome back. Listen to this. David in the Cotswolds says, I'm deeply fascinated by this because I alluded to it a little earlier. David says, I saw the other day a bare-chested man, clearly on the dole, sat on a sofa in his own front garden drinking a can of cheap beer. I thought the dole-like look had ended in the late 70s or the early 80s. Is this tradition making a revival, perchance? I added the perchance, but that's a good question. It's almost a Viz letter, isn't it? Is it making a comeback? Because I know when I was a kid, the family up the road, absolutely. There's about 16 of them that I was talking about earlier. They'd be sitting in the front garden cans of beer, and they'd have a bit of noise going, and I mean, they were a bit of an odd family, but there were so many of them, and it was always the front garden. Curious thing was they had a sizable back garden. So I don't know what was wrong with their own back garden. Maybe they just like to look at people, or for people to look at them. We mentioned that figure a second ago, 1 million young people who are not in work, education or training. And, of course, this ties in with the Alan Milburn story. That news has just broken. That's the latest. The figures from Milburn is that it's likely to get worse, where we're going to have 1 in 6 people who will be on the dole by 2030 without major welfare reform. Let's speak with Gemma O'Connor, Head of HR Advisory at Bright HR. Gemma, morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, good. I mean, this is a very bleak picture, isn't it? I mean, goodness me, if you are of a young age, and I assume they are talking mostly of people under 30, possibly under 25, but this is a very grim statistic, and nobody seems to have a clue as to how we deal with it.
Yes, some very stark numbers there, absolutely. And I do think that at the moment, the challenge is that we need to look at, I suppose, rebuilding strong entry-level pathways into the workplace for younger workers.
It does seem that I spotted, and I'm sure you saw this, the boss of Next said at the beginning of the week that there's an entry-level problem. And I know this, we can all romanticize our own backstories and, when we were kids and all of that stuff. I get that. But there was something about the Saturday job, the paper round. There was something about doing those kind of jobs that sowed a certain seed in your head. The first time as a 15-year-old that you get somebody put a tenner in your hand and you go, wow, I've achieved that, not my mum and dad, me. I've actually been paid for something. And guess what? If I work twice the shift, I get 2 lots of tenner. It's an amazing kind of, it's not even carrot and donkey stuff, is it? It's just basic common sense. But it gives you a sort of framework, a work ethic, and maybe that's missing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't wait to get out working when I was younger. But, I don't believe that it's simply that young people don't want to work. I think there's a lot of challenges ongoing at the moment, particularly for employers. There's a lot of rising costs, there's skill shortages, they've reduced training budgets. The Employment Rights Act is bringing in a lot of change and a lot of additional costs for employers as well. Yeah. So I think that it's a perfect storm, really.
It is a perfect storm. Is there, I mean, again, this story of young people out of work, not in education, not in training, it almost seems to be a weekly story, which I'm sure you've spotted. It's always, it's with us all the time. And then every now and again we get another bit of breaking news, as we just did in the last 10 minutes, that the figure has gone over 1 million. That Alan Milburn report that suggests it's going to go even greater without major welfare reform. So there's 2 prongs here. There's welfare reform. I mean, if you were a mean government, you could just take away all the welfare from any of those people, not that everybody gets it, and save loads of money. But then you'd have 1 million young people who couldn't feed themselves or do anything. So it's a bit of a trap for a government. But what we do know is this whole picture, whether you look at it from the work perspective of those involved or just the financial perspective of the welfare department for the taxpayer, the whole thing is completely unsustainable. And nobody so far, Alan Milburn says, we need major reform. What we want to know is what reform, what happens, what has to happen.
Yeah. I think everybody wants to be able to support their employees, their well-being, pay a good wage, etc. But without that support from the government and incentives in place, employers are restricted and they're really unable to put the measures in place that they want to grow and develop their staff and their workforce.
On the point of HR itself, your field of expertise, are there more complaints to HR from younger people? We often hear about the sort of snowflake generation that, even if you ask somebody to do something, it's interpreted as an act of bullying, and all you've done is say, look, mate, I asked you to do this and you went and did this. Why didn't you do that? And you think, well, I am their boss or their line manager. I'm meant to say that. But that just any kind of what will be interpreted as a microaggression is seen as a reason to visit the HR department. Is that just an urban myth, or is that true? Are youngsters more sensitive?
I don't like, we would see complaints coming in quite often on the advice line, and we would support employers. I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a trend towards complaints being raised by younger workers. I think some employers might say that younger workers would arrive with different expectations, particularly around maybe flexibility, progression, communication. But I think every generation entering the workforce has been viewed differently by the older generations as well. And I think it's important as an employer to adapt to generational change and, embrace the differences within the workforce. And, younger workers, they have a lot to bring to the table, when it comes to IT literacy, AI as well. It's a completely different generation. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the trend in complaints is younger workers. We're definitely seeing an increase in complaints being submitted, and particularly the use of AI in raising those complaints. A lot of grievances that we're seeing coming in from employees, it's quite clear that they're AI generated, which adds another layer of complexity for employers to the table.
Maybe that's because no young people are at work, so that's why they're not complaining. That could be the answer.
Look, I think, I don't believe that younger people don't want to work. I think, they do. It's just making sure that we have the pathways in place to support that. As you mentioned earlier, the Saturday working, that I do believe that's seeing a little bit of a decline. But I think from an employer's perspective, there's so much going on that, they might need to hire somebody on a longer working week. There's additional red tape for employers that hiring somebody maybe for 1 day a week just isn't worth it, essentially, because of everything they need to do.
You mentioned an AI-generated complaint. I mean, is that is that just somebody who's got a gripe that they put it into ChatGPT and get it to carve out a more confident question? Is that what it is?
Yeah, essentially to elaborate on the complaint. And I think it's very often when you're looking at something, there's certain things that you can spot something that's AI generated. But I suppose it's adding more complex language, maybe quoting legislation, etc. And if you're on the receiving end of a complaint like that, and perhaps you don't believe that you've done anything wrong in those instances, it can scare. When any employee raises a grievance, it needs to be taken seriously and investigated. And from an employer's perspective, there's a lot to be done.
Yeah. Is swearing, this is a separate, is swearing in the workplace ever? Now, everybody, I mean, goodness me, I mean, in a media newsroom, there's a lot of salty language. It's not aimed at specifically any person, just the situation, for, sake, and more. I mean, it's constant. And I speak to people who say, our workplace is a bit like that. Swearing, but there are some where there's almost a no-swear policy where no one's allowed to say a naughty word because it might upset somebody. Well, it's a curious one, that, isn't it? Because it's sort of kind of part of human nature, especially if you're in a job with tough deadlines.
Yeah, and look, I think some people would use more swear words in their day-to-day conversation than others. But I think it's setting the expectation in the workforce as to what the expected behaviours are. And not everybody in the workplace or outside of it appreciates swearing. So I think it's making sure that, as an employer, you have a duty of care to ensure your employees feel supported and the behaviours that are expected are adhered to. And, if swearing isn't acceptable behaviour, unfortunately, if it is something that you would tend to use in your day-to-day life, you have to be that little bit more cautious in the workplace because it can offend others.
Indeed. Gemma, great to have you on with us. Thank you very much for your time. Gemma O'Connor, Head of HR Advisory at Bright HR. Thank you to her. Back to you in a couple of moments. Julia's in with us as well to tell us what is going on her show this morning. Let's get a voice note, by the way. We've been talking about... is this one about food? It's about food, okay, not reform. It's about we've been talking about food a lot this morning. Is there a divide, a male-female divide on food, a class divide on food, a political divide on food, and a north-south divide on food? On that last point, here's Sean. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Ian. Sean from Grimsby here. On the north and south divide thing about the jellied eels, on the back of my wagon today, I have 2 tubs of jellied eels and I'm delivering them to Hartlepool. So someone up north wants to eat them. Great show, mate.
not wig.
It's a nutty canister, either way. I mean, look at the nut.
Bob Odenkirk! Saul was great. He was just a breath of fresh air. Amelia Clark! Star Wars versus Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, definitely. I'm loyal.
Don't tell me. Alex Hassel!
In season 2, a lot of us get our clothes off.
You do know you did that in season 1?
Exactly, that's true, yes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Welcome back. The home of common sense. 0344 499 1000. That's the number you'll need for Julia. Alison in Billericay says, lactose-free milk tastes exactly the same. I buy it for my cat because cats are lactose intolerant. Are they? Really? What have people been doing all these years before, just killing their own cat? Well, Alison says he seems happy, the cat. So does the Burmese Blue from next door, who pops in to pinch it. Yeah, Burmese Blue. Never trust those beasts. Alan in Middlesbrough says all the problems with our country and youngsters could be resolved by feeding them tripe and onions and ham shanks. Didn't do us any harm. It put hairs on your chest, made boomers like me resilient and determined to earn money so we could afford something more palatable. It certainly would liven you up in a far more tasty food department, wouldn't it? If you thought that for the rest of your life you're going to eat tripe, but if you got a better job and it was going to pay you a few more quid, it was going to break away from Tripesville onto far tastier dishes. Howard, who's in Seville in Spain, sent me this ages ago. Says, "Oi, Collins, here's me trying to lose weight. Breakfasting on a grape and a mug of green tea. And there you are talking about a full English. It's pure agony." Great show, fella. That would... Well, I felt the same because we were talking about the food and then, there was me absolutely starving. And everybody kept mentioning bacon and sausage and, all that lovely stuff. We had to send out for a bacon bap in the end. Our Tommy went out for a purchase for us. Here's Julia Hartley-Brewer. I can't imagine you going...
No, I'm hungry.
See, I've done it to you.
Another bacon sarnie.
Bacon sarnie. Brown sauce or red?
No, neither. Just salt and pepper. Salt and
really?
pepper, lashings of butter. And it's got to be on white bread.
It's got to be always on white bread. You can't have whole
bread. Got to be on white bread. So there's nothing to discuss.
Yeah.
Nothing to discuss. Husband's Northern has to be on a bap.
Oh, on a bap. Oh. Yeah. Love a bacon bap.
I know. Should we just do the whole...
Should we just
talk about it?
Well, we took, this food list that the government...
Yeah.
That's dominated this programme. As it... you come up with very big stories about welfare.
The fact that quinoa's on it.
Quinoa is on it.
When there was a big thing about quinoa, I bought some quinoa and I went,
wheatgrass is on it.
But it's like, really? Anyway,
I've never walked out of Tesco and gone, I forgot my aubergine.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway.
Forgot my dairy milk, then I'd be worried. But exactly.
Absolutely.
Got to talk this Anna Milburn report. I'm really unimpressed with it. I've been watching it over on the media. I go to it. I've listened to you. I've watched lots of other things, and I'm just like, everyone's giving him such a soft soap. Everyone's shocked. Yeah. Everyone's shocked all these young people can't get jobs. I'm not remotely shocked. Talking to our people outside, even the young